morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. However you happen to be watching and or listening to this, I want to welcome you to the latest episode of the Gaming Circle podcast. Episode 64, I think it is. Let us have parity, question mark, exclamation point, question mark. That is the title of said episode. I am your host, Mr. K. Asante, TKO Asante, PlayStation, Xbox, all the places you want to find me. Now, I'm usually joined by my co-host, the slanderous one, Mr. Everborn Saga. But of course, he chooses to be fashionably late this morning. So instead, I will, of course, move directly right along and introduce someone that, even though this is his first appearance on this show, I really think needs no introduction in this community. The man is out here always dropping knowledge, dropping science. You know, he bleeds green. He bleeds green. And by green, I mean Game On Daily. Welcome, Hargeet Chani. How you doing, good sir? How you doing this morning?
I'm doing well. I had a marathon 4-hour podcast with Risk It last night, and now here we are, the next podcast.
Indeed, yes. I hope you save some spicy stuff for us, because I suspect Everborn will be in rare form. We shall see. We shall see. But y'all had fun last night, huh? So shout out to Risk It for the biscuit, the Xbox Infinite podcast. Those guys put up a great show. So they had you on yesterday. I'm sure y'all talked a little spicy, and you had some conversation about some of the stuff we're going to be discussing today as well. Yes. But yes, so I'm sure Everborn will join us momentarily. I already see a bunch of folks already in here. You know, Mr. Joe in the Dark, good morning. Good morning, Gerald Mack. Good morning, Aaron. Good morning. I see a bunch of folks in here. Thank you so much for joining us. Please hit the like button if you haven't done so already. I'm sure you're going to love this show. Consider subscribing if you're new here. You know, tell some folks that we're here. Let them know we're in the business, and we're about to get a little slanderous on your Saturday morning. But as we start every show, we will start with some games that we have been playing. Now, Mr. Hargeet, what games have you been playing? What has been keeping you busy this week?
Yeah, so I'll pay attention to the games that are leaving Game Pass, and
shrewd move, sir. I've heard you say that, by the way. That
right?
is a very good move. You don't play what's new, you play what's leaving. Yeah.
Well, so sometimes I play what's new, but yeah, I want to make sure I at least catch it, see if it's of use to me. So I played all of them. I finished AI, the Somnium Files, because it was good enough. Cool. Astria Ascending was the other one I wanted to try out, and yeah, I kind of got hooked into it. So I ended up actually buying it because it's now out of Game Pass, because there was no way I could put in the 50 to 100 hours needed to finish it. So that's what I've been playing is those two games.
Okay, awesome. Now, so is that your cadence for Game Pass mostly? Like you'll play what's new and hot, but more often than not, because you want to maximize your dollar, you want to at least try everything before it leaves?
Yeah, I usually whatever comes in, I install it. So
cool.
You know, whenever they add stuff, I install it. The rare instances where that won't happen is a game like, let's say it's Madden, and I'm like, I just don't care. I'm not.
Because if you played Madden 2015, you know what Madden 2022 looks like.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like those kind of, maybe I'll skip those. I don't play racers, but even there, I'll go ahead and install it. I'll give it an hour if it's something interesting. Great. And that actually happened. What was the game that came along with the consoles? I can't remember the racing game, but it's one that eventually made it to Game Pass. Zero interest, but I started it.
You mean Legends? Something not Legends. A recent racer. Does it have like a campaign kind of?
But it was good enough that I kept playing it. It felt pretty fun. So I'm like, cool. And it had varied modes. It wasn't just street, it was dirt. So it just did whatever, right? And I was like, wow, this is actually kind of fun. It might have been dirt. It might have been Dirt 5 or something like that.
Dirt 5, awesome. Yeah. That's another one. Yeah. When I saw that game, I was like, game. What do you call it? Forza will eat his lunch. But Dirt has a room. It has a place for itself.
And I'm like, fun. Wow. So I might have spent like 10, 15 hours, something like that in that game. I'm like, wow, I didn't expect it, right? So like, hey, this is kind of fun. And so but that's what happens, right? So you try it. If it's a value, great. If it's not, move on, right? That's the beauty of Game Pass. I love it. So
cool. Very, very cool. Have you tried the game on screen right now, which is for those who
I have
Grounded
with Colt. I played a little
bit
of Grounded.
Oh, awesome. Tell give me a bit of your take on Grounded.
It has good potential. We got to the area where you, at least I don't know, it was the first time we got inside a a structural area where you had some like computers and stuff, right? And I would assume there's a good story there, but we didn't play anymore after that. So
that is where the story ended in the pregame. Like before 1.0, you play, and you'd get to a place where there's a robot and there's this mystery, and you're like dun dun dun, and then it's over until it's next. So okay, you guys got there, but you haven't actually pulled the trigger and played further.
Yeah, I'd like to actually try it out. I want to get through the story, and but I know there's survival mechanisms, mechanics in this game, so you have to kind of go through that part of it as well. As we know, Colt has played the heck out of this game, and
I hear he plays with his kid, right?
Yeah, his kids, and also like he did an interview with one of the developers, and it came out, like, at the beginning of the week, I think. Definitely check it out. It was pretty cool. But yeah, he's definitely played it with a lot of people to try to get them to play the game, and I was one of them. Yeah, and it looks kind of interesting. So
I gotta tell you, like I played this right when it was first in early access before the story came out, and even then when you play it, you're like, yo, this thing is special. Like I tend to be a single player gamer, so I was like, okay, maybe I'll pump my brakes until the actual story comes out and the campaign is fully fleshed. It is really fun. It looks great. It looks great. It looks like the crafting system is far better than it has any right to be in a game of this size. You know what I mean? Like, dare I say the crafting system in this game is better than Fallout 4? And that's saying something. You can build awesome mansions in this thing, and it looks really cool. You know, I've seen some very interesting people putting some very, very intricate things together in this game. So I guess I would say if you haven't tried it out, Game Pass folks, definitely try out Grounded. You know, I really think it's a hit. You know, I initially came in there going, it might be Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the game, but then the game starts and you're like, Stranger Things, maybe? Because the campaign starts with that little, 80s synth wave repeating track thing that Stranger Things does so well. But yeah, it's really fun. It's really fun. Okay, so anything else that's new on your playlist, or I have one more that I want to share.
Anything new? I don't think so. I think I've been playing Halo, of course.
Of course.
So
yeah, absolutely.
I haven't tried. We had the Modern Warfare, the beta. I didn't get a chance to play that. I usually don't play Call of Duty multiplayer. But
I tend to be a single player in that arena as well.
That's usually what I do. I like the campaigns.
Yep. Shout out to Risky for the biscuit.
Biscuit.
He's like, how the heck are you podcasting again? I heard he came out and showed out really well on your show, sir. Good to see you here. Welcome. So, okay, one more that I want to show off, and then we'll get into some of the news stories because we have a lot of news stories. And of course, he always needs to make his appearance. These divas, Mr. Everborn Saga. Good morning, sir.
Well, hello. I'm going to go off camera while I eat my breakfast, but you guys please continue.
Enjoy your breakfast, sir. We'll get to you soon. But you know what? I see Mr. Gerald Mack in the chat, so I would be remiss without saying shout out to Gerald Mack. He and I was hanging out on Xbox Party Chat yesterday, playing a little bit of that Cyberpunk. He finally got into it, and he's really loving it. He's enjoying it. I was showing him some of the crazy aspects of the game. He was really blown away, and during our little session, I advised him to go seek out and play this game. And of course, I know that not too many heads in here are VR heads, but this is my show, damn it! So I'm going to show you some footage. This is a game called Bone Labs. Came out on Thursday. It is a game that would be considered by all a AAA experience. As much of a AAA experience as VR tends to get, which means obviously, as you know, it's a new environment. Big AAA companies don't spend as much money. They're risk averse and all that. So some few folks have to jump in and really make it special. But for those looking on the screen, you start the game, you're looking at it, and actually usually recording VR is very difficult because the shaky cam and all that. But Oculus has made new technology that allows it to do a bit more streamlined. It slows down the image so it's not as shaky. What you're looking at right now is you put the headset on, you turn into a skeleton. I'm using the Valve Index here so I can track even in individual digits. So I'm like flipping the bird and stuff. Forgive me on the Saturday morning. But yes, you take the little coin in your hand, the turnable coin, and you flip it to different characters. And depending on where you land, it changes your body, right? So it changes your body, and now you are this person, and you'll see what happens. This is literally like the first 3, 4, 5 minutes, not even, but it is it's a shock to the system. We'll just say it's a shock to the system. So you press that button, and yes, as you can see, a noose falls from the sky. You put it around your neck, because if you don't, the game will not continue. And then you proceed to see what happens there. But yes, this is a game that is serious VR. Like I'm talking, like even the biggest VR heads, the ones that are absolutely all about VR, are like, hey, pump your brakes when you play this. Maybe try it in short spurts, because there's no slowing things down. There's no making it easy for you. No. It is raw, hardcore VR, and if you can't handle it, you will vomit all over the place. So yes, it is a very, very, very technical game. The best way I can describe it is it's a very physics-based game, meaning it's a game where you can't clip through things. See, okay, so you see Hargeet, they pulled the lever. I'm getting choked, and a sword showed up, and I, being the moron that I am, did not put 2 and 2 together. So as soon as the game started, it ended, and that was the end of the game, and I got an achievement for the shortest played game. But then, of course, you go back in, you re-roll, and then you cut. Exactly. See, Hargeet knew. He's never played it before. First thing you do is cut the thing off.
Yeah, exactly.
But yes, it is a shock to the system. So I jump in there. I'm like, oh, this is a cool game. Let's see how it is. They put a noose around your neck. I roll a character. I'm a black character. I'm like, oh boy, this is some insinuations that I don't want to deal with right now. But no, it is a very interesting game. Like, this is the stuff that VR is all about. Like, stuff that you cannot do this in flat game. Like, you can do it, right?
Pancake.
But it won't in pancake form. Exactly. Yes. You can do it, but it won't really mean much. But in VR, when the noose is around your neck and you see it around your neck, and you have to quickly grab the knife and cut it, otherwise you're seeing your vision go black. It means something. It hits differently, as they say. So if you are a VR head, if you're used to VR, please be used to VR. This is one of those things where if you're not used to it, you will hurl. Like, you definitely will hurl. This is one of those situations. But if you are used to it and you want something that you're like, hey, show me the future, check this out, right? I was playing this, like I said, on PC VR. There's a version of it on Meta Oculus Quest 2. Obviously, the quality will take a bit of a hit, but to my understanding, based on reviews, the physics and all of that is exactly the same. It's a really, really like good expression of what VR can do now. So if y'all haven't played it, please check it out. It's cool. It's called Bone Labs. It's from the people who made Bone Work, the first one who made Bone Work, and it's a very, really interesting game. Y'all should definitely try it. See, as you can see, this time when the knife shows up, Quessy's he's not an idiot. He grabs the knife real quick and cuts because he doesn't want to die again. Anyway, but Mr. Everborn Saga, I don't know. Anything new going on in your gaming sphere?
Sorry, I just woke up. You were talking about
you were talking
VR?
VR, so you went to sleep. Understood. Yeah,
okay.
I understand.
No,
you just woke up. Mm-hmm.
I'm playing Grounded, and I'm playing Deathloop.
Oh, okay. Speak a little bit to Deathloop and or Grounded for me. Well, Deathloop you spoke to last week, and you said you're going to give it more of a shot. What about Grounded? How much time have you put into it?
I started Grounded for the first time. I never joined any of the beta stuff. This is my first experience with it. I see what you were saying. There's a little bit of a Stranger Things vibe. You really get that 80s, 90s kind of nostalgia attached to it. I've decided I'm going to play Grounded exclusively on the Steam Deck via XCloud.
I've been doing that too. Nice, very nice.
And it's, for the most part, it works out really well. Is there a third person?
Shout out to Gerald Matt. He's like, now I'm asleep.
Is there a third person mode in Grounded?
Yes, there is.
How do you get to it?
It's really funky. I think it's a select button. Like, you hit the pause and you hit the select button, and then all of a sudden you pop out of your character and you can see him in third person.
And you can play the game that way?
And you can play the whole game in third person. Yeah. It starts you default in first person, but you can jump out and be in third.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Then all right.
I like playing it that way actually more.
Yeah, it feels like the kind of game that should be third person. So I'm gonna try it like that. I'm not like super. That hasn't grabbed me yet either, but it hasn't pushed me away.
Okay. Okay.
So
let me give you this analogy that I've given before that makes you roll your eyes and groan. But of course, this would not be a Gaming Circle podcast without me making you groan and you giving me a ridiculous conspiracy theory. So here we go.
Wait, pause, by the way.
Sure. Yeah, big pause. So from the campaign and from what I'm playing so far, Grounded reminds me of Elden Ring, oddly enough.
Oh,
Why
God.
is that?
Oh my God.
Follow me. Why is that? Because when you start the game, the spiders are the bane of your existence. They show up, you run the other way. They are the scariest ish on earth, and they're the size of skyscrapers compared to you. It's ridiculous. Okay. But as you go through, you're getting better weapons, you're gaining more XP, you're changing your armor, you're getting better armor. Now you have the scorpion armor, now you have this armor, and then next time you see the spider, he's like a gnat on your foot. You're just like, bam, get out of here. Even though he used to be the one you was scaredest of.
There's a thing that you don't know about this show. Every week we come here and I talk about Microsoft buying Sega.
Yeah.
And KSI,
and I compare everything to Elden Ring.
Every game is Elden Ring to this guy.
I see.
And he
but Hargeet, am I wrong?
He's not an
Am I wrong in my assessment?
I mean,
right?
everything has that kind of thing to it, though, right? You would think most games would start, especially ones that have a progression, right? Some level of an RPG element of you gaining abilities and gaining levels, that it will be like that, right? So now the thing with Elden Ring is it kind of classes itself in a different way, and so it's tough to compare other games to it. But you know, there are plenty of Soulsborne.
Oh no, don't worry, Hargeet. I did that just for the purpose of clowning Mr. Everborn Saga.
So yes, in that little minor way, yes, there are similar. But
there are similarities. Yes, the thing
Fallout
that you run from in the beginning is the thing that becomes fodder later.
Yeah,
if you build yourself up right.
Right, and if you really take a far enough back view, it's actually also just like Tetris.
That's how I feel. Too far there, Everborn.
That's how I feel when you compare everything to Elden Ring. But please,
you're going too far, brother. All right. Let us move swiftly along. Unless Everborn, you have anything new you want to add to the equation of games that we've been playing?
I know we make all this talk about this is like a dry year for Xbox, but it's not really.
No.
And even if you want to say it's a dry year for first party, I don't know, like Grounded and what do you call it I have a little bit of anxiety now because there are 2 first party games that I now want to play and I'm trying to complete them before Plague's Tale comes out and then Gotham Knights after that and then God knows what else in this onslaught. And so now it's like there's too many things to play and I'm stressed out about it. And then me, just because of my personality, I just say, you know what, I'm not playing. There's too much pressure. It's too many games. I'm going to put it down. But
I mean, Deathloop and Grounded already out, and you got Pentiment coming, right? It is kind of a light year, fair enough. But
Game of the Year edition Pentiment.
But still, they do have some things coming out, and they've had other second party things anyway as well, right?
Yeah. I'm excited for High on Life. Really excited for that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that myself. And that's not in this year, right? They did delay that.
No, they delayed to December
this year, I think.
Oh, they still start to December because I thought that was just only a matter of time.
I think so.
No,
only a matter of time.
Moved it. They moved it. They announced that they moved it to December, but
yeah, I thought they were going to delay.
That's also a problem, though, right? Because now you're going to be doing that and Callisto Protocol in December. It's too much, man.
This is what we have to worry about, brother. We have so many games out there here.
Yeah,
absolutely. But okay. Let us move along, and I'm trying to keep it short this week because unfortunately I have a house full of sick family members. So we're gonna start you off right, and then we're gonna let Living Split Screen finish you off. Pause.
Wow. Pause.
Go ahead,
fact, I have a hard stop at 12:30, and this is a funny story. Yeah. I have to go to Manhattan. To pick up my wife. Because she had been on this whole I don't know what you call it. She's been on a kick of trying to do her own eyebrows. And I say, don't do that because you're going to look like one of those old ladies that have to draw your eyebrows on. So she's like, do you want to pay to do my eyebrows then? So I said, fine, find some place to go that'll do your eyebrows. She picks the most expensive place in Manhattan. So now I am paying $300 for her to get her eyebrows done on 45th Street.
She psyched you out, right? She
Yes.
got you.
But now I have to go and
no worries.
Her up at 1 o'clock,
we'll make sure. We'll make sure you'll have more than enough time to go and go pay for your $300 eyebrows. Damn,
they better be amazing.
They better be amazing. They better come with a midget ready to service it.
They better come with a Brazilian wax if we're doing all of that.
Oh, okay. Moving swiftly along, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. We already have almost 50 people in here already. I see Tate Talks in here. I see Kimmy28 in here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Mr. Inferno Games. Welcome so much. Thank you guys so much for checking us out. If you haven't hit the like button, please consider doing so. But you know what? Let us move on to some of the news we've been talking about that's been taking up some of the attention in here. And there's a lot of them this week. So it's not even a situation where we're gonna start off slow. We're just gonna start off right at the top. Google's gone. They shut it down. It's over, ladies and gentlemen. Who's surprised? Anybody?
Well, you guys go ahead because I got an angle around this one. So you guys go.
Okay. No, I know you got your angle. Go ahead, Hargeet. Now, I will not offend I will not even try to offend you by saying, "Oh, were you surprised about this?" Come on now. Nobody's surprised by any of this.
Yeah.
This ended before it even started. But sir, give me your take on this whole situation.
The way they came to market just was not going to work. I mean, you can't take old games and then say pay full price for them and they're only available in this service in the cloud versus the other options where you have is it GeForce Now with their
GeForce Now
cloud, but that's
Luna
your Steam library and you could play that on any PC, right? It's your stuff and you can play it cloud if you want to. xCloud, it's your Xbox console or PC library that they will just let you play, right?
Follows you wherever you go.
The cloud, right? But you can take those same games with you, play it on console, play it on PC. So it's a different story. The problem with Stadia, like anything Google does, they do a great job creating new tech, but then they do a horrible job implementing it to actually make it useful in the real world. And this is what what happened here. They have great cloud tech. They really do. It's great cloud streaming tech, but the implementation around it just was not well thought out. It's too early to do what they were saying, right? People don't have that right now, right? And it's not even in mindshare. Maybe they could have grown mindshare, but where? Right, the need for good internet, you have to cluster yourselves around certain data centers. It's viable, but you have to kind of get there first. If they'd partnered with somebody with hardware, if they had done something like a Steam Deck and said, here's a hardware device, it'll play at low fidelity, but you got your library and you'll always have it. Or partner with Steam and say, you know what, whatever we let people buy, it's from there, and then that gives you your entitlement. And if they want to play those games later, they still own them, right? But they went with this idea of go to our store, buy these games again. That just doesn't work. And, so it's really mostly them. They did start with investment and then kind of backed off when they tried to buy Bethesda. Well, this is what we hear anyways, right? But Microsoft came in and said, no, we're going to offer more. Here you go. And they just bought Bethesda, right? And they're like, well, we don't want to have to play in this kind of arena anymore, right? Because the big boys here are actually in this for real. And this isn't a place that we want to go invest in. That's disappointing. Imagine if they really were like Microsoft and, Microsoft dumped $70 billion to go buy ABK, right? Imagine if Google took the same step and said, well, how much is PlayStation? Why don't we just go buy PlayStation? Right now, Sony Corporation, the entire bloody thing is worth $90 billion, right? If they just said, hey, let's just go buy PlayStation. Just how big does that make that? Both of those entities together, take that cloud tech, give it to Sony. Imagine where they could be, right? That isn't what they did. They decided to go down this weird road and okay, well, you're not going to attract enough customers to sustain at that point, right? They could have even done things like bundle things. So Amazon, for instance, said, you know what? We'll take our fledgling service, Luna, and we'll bundle into Prime, right? If people latch on, they latch on, right? And that way you have, hey, I got a recurring revenue stream because Prime is already there. I'm going to try to attract customers and see if it goes somewhere. While that's happening, I'm going to try to build my library. They're starting to build games. There was one game that came up, PC, right? Available on PC. You could buy it on Steam, right? So that game is apparently pretty good, right? And that's what you have to do. They had no killer content.
What do
they
you
didn't
think
have that thing to hook you? And
of
then they
this
have
theory?
Yeah, I mean, and that
And this
there
is a joke,
something to
by
be
the way.
said
This is a
about
joke.
that.
This is a
But it's
joke, but I'm
fair,
serious.
right? It's fair.
Yeah.
He like, you know, the PS3, then the X1, and now this. It's fair. It's fair to ask, do you not see how gaming works, right? Because, you know, if you want to hook people, you have to have certain things, right? And there was nothing there with Stadia. That's kind of the problem. You know, the hook is, hey, you can play the game that you already own, but you have to buy again for full price if you want to try it in the cloud. Like, well, wait, why would I do that?
Although I will give them a little bit of props. And Google, say what you will about Google, they've always been at least good at this. This is not the first time, like, and of course we're going to get into that. This is not the first time they've released something that they then eventually like kill, right?
Yep.
Here is the graveyard.
The graveyard
Killed by Google. Everybody can look it up, right? There's a bunch of them, and I own a lot of the stuff that have been killed by Google. I'm an avid user of many of the things that have been killed.
As I said,
by Google.
they come up with great things. They just don't market it correctly to actually make it useful. Now there's also the standard response you get from the Sony PlayStation fanboys that this is because of Xbox and they can't compete. Well, first, that's baloney. Like this is another $1 trillion company. If they wanted to compete, Google could 100% compete. There's nothing stopping them from making massive investments and going in this direction. And for that, you already have another topic. Saudi Arabia is willing to compete. They're bloody going in and buying up studios. Why the heck
going on? That's right.
Why the heck couldn't Google, right? A bunch of crap. They could absolutely do it. And Google is bigger than freaking Saudi Arabia. Let's just put that fact out there. Google has more money than freaking Saudi Arabia. That's the way it is. Okay. And so
the weird thing about Google is the way they invest is always an enigma. It's not really logical. Like them stepping out of the gaming space was really, it's more of a whim than anything else. It's not like they can't compete, right? They can compete beyond competition if they really wanted to, right? They just didn't want to compete. And they were just like, we don't feel like it. And
let me ask you guys a question.
So, please, go ahead, everyone.
What is the largest Google acquisition besides YouTube, which they bought for almost nothing?
I'm not sure.
I don't even know.
Would it be the phone company that they ended up selling? They did buy Lenovo, right? They bought the Lenovo, the cell.
True. They needed the patents for that because of Android.
Yep.
Yeah,
and even to this day, they haven't made a successful Android phone, even though they bought that hardware company.
Yeah, I think that might be
Motorola. They bought
Motorola. There you go, Motorola. Yeah.
Yeah, but even that wasn't like multiple. That wasn't like a huge multiple of billions of dollars.
I know it was like 10, 12 billion. I think it was pretty high.
Because it
ended up being $12.5 billion.
Yeah, it was pretty high.
Was that their largest acquisition?
That's how much they bought it for, and then they sold it. They sold it for $2.9 billion.
And lost
right, because they wanted the patents. But they also
the second biggest thing they've done was Nest, $3.2 billion. Those are the only two.
So they and the reason I'm bringing this up. They don't seem very acquisitive.
No.
Right. And I think they've shied away because, like you point out, Nest was their second largest thing.
Yep. DoubleClick was the third for $3 billion. I mean, the only thing, like the things you can remember, right? HTC, they bought the telecom part of HTC for $1.1 billion.
Yeah.
Right.
Drop in the bucket for them.
Those things are things
1.5 billion
to be functional
because
because of Android, right? That's all because of Android.
Yeah. Right. And they needed certain patents because I don't know if you know this. I think Google still has to pay Microsoft
Yeah.
for every Android device sold because of
Yep.
the patents that Microsoft got from Nokia.
Yep.
And they needed their own patents just so that they wouldn't get like sued out of existence.
So they wouldn't get
or have to pay license fees for forever.
Because if they hold their own and you hold your own, then at some point you can trade.
Right. It's an arms race, right? It is.
That's
it is effectively like holding nukes, right?
Absolutely.
Right. We're not going to fire them on each other, but hey, don't mess with me. So I'm saying all that to say, I really think Google's success in mobile, because a lot of people don't know this, Google's gaming revenue alone is
it's
$37+ billion, almost $38 billion, which is, you could add Microsoft and Sony's gaming revenue together.
Yeah.
And
but think about it. Think about it, right?
They
makes sense, right? Because people keep calling out Apple because Apple Arcade is just quietly gobbling up money. What's it gobbling up? It's partly gobbling up mostly American money, because Apple market share is not trouncing everybody everywhere. It's just America. So if that's the case in America, imagine Android everywhere else.
Yep.
Well, I mean, the App Store still in gaming still makes more than even what Google makes.
True.
But
that is true.
But the point, listen, Americans, if we're good for nothing else, it's wasting disposable cash.
It's
right?
consuming.
But that being said, I'm saying this to say, in that space, in gaming, it's all mobile. That's where all the growth is in the industry. And they literally have to do nothing but provide a store, payment mechanisms, and a distribution method, right? That's all they have to do.
And
so their mindset
the
is,
absolutely.
Why would we spend $4 billion, 10 billion, 70 billion for this when the developers are doing
we could just sit back and just watch the money come in?
They come in and they build, the platform to basically do the same thing in this part of the market, and figured, we built it, they will come. But the problem is, mobile is huge because a lot of it is because, you can have smaller teams that can use those platforms or whatever. Talking about console and PC, those distribution channels are already there, right? So Ubisoft doesn't need you, right? You don't own this platform. So you can't just say, hey, I'm Google, put your game here just because. And I also think it's hilarious that Stadia didn't get software support, and I'll tell you why. If you're an old fuddy-duddy like me, you remember Windows Phone. And you remember how they struggled to get software on the service. And the phone,
Microsoft even tried to subsidize the cost, and they wouldn't do it.
And this Microsoft built a YouTube app, and Google
broke it.
Right.
Google broke it.
and then future phones didn't have it on there, and they offered to pay Google to make it. They did all of that because Google knew it's a non-starter for a phone not to have YouTube and Maps. So they wouldn't put it there, effectively killing that platform. So the fact that they now come into this space and the only content they can secure is sparse and everyone's overcharging them is just chickens coming.
Welcome to the world, there, player.
If they wanted to do it, and thankfully they didn't. I guess in some ways you could say maybe they should have. They could have gone to the EU, Microsoft, and told them, "Hey, Google has a monopoly," because they do. They have the vast majority of the user base over there. And you could say, "Hey, they're not putting their stuff on a competitor's platform." So this is anti-competitive.
Yeah, but that was a different day, right?
Well, there's no way Google.
Both of those
Microsoft
companies have been.
Microsoft would not do that like off of themselves because they know
because they know that it'll come back and haunt them.
It'll come and smack them in the face very soon.
Exactly, which is why they didn't do it, right? But they have a claim. They do have a claim there.
But also, to that end, Microsoft didn't have to volunteer as a character witness for Epic against Google and Apple's stores.
And this is why what you're describing there is why it's going to be real funny what's going to go down with this whole thing. And we'll get back to that because that's another topic of conversation that dovetails into this, which is the idea that now that they've done this, they can paint that picture to say, oh, it's because Microsoft is such a force in this environment,
which is why they're
we
not going to
can't
do
compete.
it.
That's why we
there.
bowed out, which is
well. Hold
sad.
on a minute, Hargeet and Kay. Is it only me that noticed that? What day is Stadia shutting down?
Timing wise, yes.
But what day? What's the last day of it that it said they're going to support?
June 14th or something?
Show it in the article. You should be able to scroll up. It'll tell you right at the top.
Let's see. A few days ago, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, January 18th, 2023.
Okay, when was the Activision Blizzard deal with Microsoft announced?
That's not something. Please,
it's probably around the same day. It was the day after MLK, right? Whatever.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, it was January 18th, 2022.
Okay. So what are you trying to say? They are threading the needle and going, okay, pull the trigger so that people can thread that needle.
I'm just saying, if you want to send
signal. Told you want some conspiracy theories on a Saturday morning. There's one. Keep counting.
Lucius Augustus is not just January. It's literally January the same day. January 18th.
Yes.
They could have shut this service down any day. Why that day? I think they're trying to send a signal.
Oh, sure.
Listen. Here's the thing. I remember, right? Well, not remember. Like, think about this. I have long said that Stadia always felt to me like a POC for them selling B2B cloud services to people.
But they're doing that. They are definitely doing that now too.
Right? Yeah. So that Microsoft has that Sony contract, but it hasn't really materialized yet.
That's right. Yeah.
That is a contract worth tens of billions of dollars, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Who's to say Google doesn't want to win that cloud business over? Maybe. They say, hey, we'll do you a favor.
Yeah. I mean, right now, Google has Konami. Google has Capcom. That is a fact. That's already known. Like their back end Google Stream service powers Konami games and powers Capcom games on Switch. So some of those cloud only things you see is Google Stream in the background.
Yeah,
that already exists, and they're going to start being that they no longer have to market to consumers anymore. You're going to start seeing that big push. Microsoft is one. Yeah, there are other streaming platforms, but hey, we are Google. We can offer you this stuff, and instead of it being part of the subscription service, it is people paying full price for a game that presumably the day we turn the servers off, it's gone.
Now I want to add one.
It's funny money at that point.
One caveat to my conspiracy theory is that I basically work doing cloud migrations at my.
Yeah, I've been doing some of that myself these days.
And most people, myself included, do not design for hybrid cloud. And what I mean is, we got a contract with AWS. We're just doing all our stuff in AWS, right? Some people are going to pick Google. Some people are going to pick Azure, whatever. So I don't know how far Sony is into that. So it may be much less than trivial for them to change cloud providers. But again, we really haven't seen it materialize yet. So if
they haven't really made use of their cloud ambitions. They haven't really shown us what they are yet. Yeah.
If it's not far along enough, I think you could you could move it over to another provider. And they listen. Let's just be fair. Stadia had the better streaming tech.
Actually, right? I will push back on you a little bit and say of the big ones, of the really big ones,
you're going to say NVIDIA.
NVIDIA's first.
Yes, sure.
I've tested them all. NVIDIA's first. Absolutely.
But Stadia was still better than xCloud.
Well, yes, Stadia is better than xCloud, but it's for one specific reason, one key reason. It is
before you tell me that reason,
it's fudging you.
Before you tell me that reason, consumers don't care about that key reason.
True, but the consumers don't have to care. But we're here, technical people having technical conversations, so you should know the reason why it's kind of fudging is because they're using the same algorithms that they use for YouTube. They're basically pulled them over to Stadia. So when it first started, I was part of the quote unquote founders group. Ridiculous in hindsight. But when you first got your thing and you turned it on, like it is, you have 4K, but you could see the compression like terrible compression right away. And I have a gigabit connection. You could see it. It took them a while to strike the balance to where the compression wasn't so bad that you really saw it. But at some point, they found the sweet spot where, yes, it's still kind of that YouTube 4K and not real 4K, but it was good enough to where you really could just like play and enjoy yourself.
This new Verge design is offensive to me. Like,
I don't like it either.
I
like the last one.
I want to punch it in the face. They used to use Chorus. I don't know what this is now.
Yeah.
But anyway, shout out to Josh Topolsky.
Let's see. One thing I want to talk about before
last thing.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
So we know they didn't want to invest in the first party content, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you launched it's not like, you know, the series consoles launched and there wasn't like a major first party title, right? Mm-hmm. But you have 20 years of being in the industry and having fans to support you for that, and you have a backlog and a catalog and all that. You are completely new to the market, right? And there's no killer app. None
at all.
Plus, they also had the promise of other ones, right? They just bought Bethesda, right? So you knew those games were coming. You had Halo coming, right? It got delayed, but it was coming, right?
Right.
So with that Fallout,
last thing, you didn't even do a launcher. I get you don't want to launch a console; it's too difficult. It's an entrenched market. You couldn't do a launcher so people had some sort of hardware component to.
You have YouTube. You didn't integrate it into YouTube. I mean, like day one. Like, there's so much
game streaming to YouTube, things like that. But so back to the competition thing, right? So one additional point. Look, in the zeal that Sony has to try to block Game Pass, they also blocked Stadia and Luna and GeForce, right? Because those are also subscription services. And so if you try to look at their game list, the money-hatted Sony games, they're not there, right? And that becomes a problem as of a certain time, right? So when Game Pass started to become a thing, they started to put in these clauses. You can't be in a subscription service. So that becomes another headache, right? So is the fact that Microsoft's willing to invest worse than content you just can't get, right? So third-party content you just can't get. And that is another thing that you have to look at when you're looking at competition. So Sony is just as complicit, if not worse, because they're just taking games away. Whereas the Microsoft games, the ones that were money-headed by Microsoft, those are there. You can get those games in Stadia. But Microsoft was willing to also say, well, we'll just spend more and invest in this area. We want to compete, right? And they were looking at Google, they were looking at Amazon, saying that's our competition. They're looking at Apple and saying, well, what are they going to do? They already make a lot of money, and they're already dipping their toe in here. What are they going to do? Are they going to start really competing? Because in that case, they do have to really go toe to toe. Those are big companies that actually can compete,
and that's what we want. That's what we're waiting for, and it's always so close, but never quite there. Aside on the topic of sidebar, I've added a little bit of a wrinkle to the story already, because as the fallout has been coming out about this whole thing.
Just 1 second, you have to understand.
Oh, stop!
I'm a sleeper cell.
Get out of here with that.
They're just gonna activate me.
Sure.
I just gotta get ingrained over there, and then Manchurian Candidate.
So, question: I didn't know this. So, obviously, with the fallout of all this Google stuff under the bridge now we know more information about all the various studios they canceled, all the other stuff, the games that potentially were being made that now have been moved on to other places. And then the Kojima story happened. We already knew that Kojima was working with them, right?
Yeah,
we knew that. We knew that they moved it over to Xbox. What I didn't know, and please, maybe I just missed it, and it surprises the heck out of me, because when we heard, hey, Kojima is thinking of cloud-only game, blah 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 blah, I thought, of course, it makes perfect sense. Xbox. Why? Because they have the infrastructure for it, right? You can leverage across the board all this virtual hardware that is way more powerful than any one device in your home. So because of that, you can use that to do something very interesting, right? Cool. But that really made my brain go in the netcode direction, made it go in an MMO kind of shared world direction, because you're basically in that world where everything is on this super server, if you will, and everyone attaches to it. And then we find this rumor that Google apparently canceled Kojima's project, the cloud-only project, because it was single player and Google wasn't convinced that people would like single player that's also online only. And it make my brain go, what? So then what is it that they're leveraging from an infrastructure perspective that is so powerful that can't be leveraged on a local machine? Is it that they just want to make realistic next-gen graphics so powerful that you really need like 18 Xboxes to accomplish the task? Because it is still a single-player game. Hargeet, what are your thoughts? Did you know this was single player? I did not.
That would have been my guess to start with. Has he made a lot of multiplayer games? Right. So
yeah, he does. He makes multiplayer like games, you know, games that where you can much like your FromSoft games where you can, hey, watch out here, just like your Death Strandings, right? You can affect the world.
Right, and
somebody can
that's
help you build
one of the
your
things
bridge.
he could do, right? So like in Death Stranding, it's not a multiplayer game,
Mm-hmm,
but it has this like echoes of things from all the other players, right? So you could have a shared world type of thing. The other thing you can do is think of Sea of Thieves, where the water is running from the cloud, right?
Yep.
So you could have your background, your city landscapes, stuff like that. The things that Cyberpunk couldn't do, right?
Go there with me. We're technologists on this panel at this point this morning, so we can go there. What did you think? Because now that we know, right, and it's definitive that it is a single player project, right? What theoretically do you think would require so much resources that can't be locally obtained, that requires it to be online only?
So you need a lot of compute power to calculate, like, let's say you want a city of 1,000 people around you, right? So like Unity did, right? AC Unity, it had a very,
I remember that. Yep.
A lot of people.
And
that's
game
hard
is still
to
ahead of
do.
its time. Still,
Yeah, it is.
Lots of things that game did that other games still can't do. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But if you want that to be like, these 3 people are all off eating a hot dog, these 5 people are off, looking at a store, something like that. That takes a lot of compute.
Yep.
But that's the kind of thing you can do randomized in the cloud and say, all right, we're just going to have this be a living thing that's always going to be different.
So what you're saying is, if I hear you correctly, what you're saying is this game is actually trying to put into action what the marketing was for Cyberpunk.
Exactly, right? So Cyberpunk couldn't pull it off because what they were trying to do is run that on an Xbox.
Because it's all local compute.
It's just not going to happen, right?
Yeah,
if you instead say, you know what, take the elements that are just superfluous, the background, to make it alive.
So literally, they're going to hire an NPC and go, okay, hire people and go, your job is to give this NPC a life. Let him go to work, let him go home.
We don't even need to do that. We now have like capabilities to just emulate
to emulate it. Yep.
So they can just do that, and that would be fantastic. It basically goes to that uncanny valley of like, it's a real living thing.
Beast Mode 10. Drive cars without cars.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Interesting.
And it's an interesting world to see if maybe that could be done. Right. So let's say you're going through New York City and it's real. Like it just, you have, it looks real because UE5, you can photogrammetry the whole thing and it looks real. Not only that, you have actual people going about their daily lives, doing their thing, right? That kind of thing. That's what the cloud offers if they want to spend the money to do it, right?
Yeah.
And in a first-party Microsoft environment, you could do it. In a first-party Google environment, you could do it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But they have to take it as this is a showpiece. And we're doing this to attract customers to play other things that will give us the money, or say, okay, there's microtransactions, this is something like that, where they can make the money back, right? But that's what it's got to be. And in this case, Microsoft's willing to go ahead and do the investment, right?
Yeah, and do the funding.
And so,
absolutely. Okay.
And hopefully we see something crazy like that, right?
Yeah.
And maybe it's a fantastical world. It's not human. I don't care, right? But something so crazy that it showcases
can't be done by and those who have the opportunity to, and I see some folks already talking about it. If you have an opportunity to go hunt down that Crackdown 3 demo that was released by IGN, like I think it was a PAX that they were testing Crackdown 3 before it was released, before Epic had bought the company that ended up removing the cloud tech that Microsoft was using. Crackdown 3 looked insane. And they had this, it totally reminds me of that. They had like a UI element on the top corner of the screen showing you how many Xboxes were rendering that at the time, when as far as 30 Xboxes at once rendering some world. absolutely awesome looking stuff. So I see where you're going with that. It would be very, very interesting because I was like, oh yeah, third party makes sense. Third person makes sense. Shared world where people can be. But if it's only first person, then that means there's other resource constraints that they're trying to overcome to really make that happen. And that's exciting because that means the graphics could be, graphics and other things could be very, very special. So I'm definitely looking forward to checking it out. Mr. Everborn Saga, I'm not sure if you've been following this. What do you think of this? Like, you know your way around infrastructure pretty well. They're talking about a a single player, which you think single player offline. This is online only single player. Is this a deal breaker for you, or do you think they could do something interesting with those constraints?
You said what part about it would be the deal breaker?
The fact that it's a single player game that can only be played online.
Single player game, and you think I have a problem with that?
No, I'm talking about the online only component.
But that's fine. I don't care if I'm online. Like, I don't have to deal with people. Like, they're already
Mr. Anti-human over here.
They're already like high on my list. Once they said that you had me at single player. Right.
Right.
But from there, I just hope it's not first person. Because
this is Kojima.
Geez.
When was the last time Kojima did a first person game? He doesn't do first person games. He's never done a first person game if I can think about it.
What about that PT? Yeah,
but he didn't technically do that. It was just a demo. He's never released a full-fledged first person only game. Am I wrong?
Though I wonder if like in that genre, first person works better because it's more immersive.
It does, yeah. In the scary games genre, it definitely works. First person works better. Shout out to those who like Spooky Time, being that it's October. Go and play Resident Evil 7 in VR.
I actually
will never sleep ever again. Ever again. That thing is scary as hell.
The Halloween decorations around my house was something I'm not looking forward to. But no, to me, right? This is the kind of thing you launch a Stadia with, something that can only be done in the cloud.
Be done with showing what the tech can do. Yeah,
rendering is one thing, right? But couldn't you use the cloud to train the AI so that you have more realistic crowds and all these other things
that all would work in time. Speaking of what's his name, Harrison,
we got 108 Dragons in the house. What up?
Oh yeah, shout out to 108 Dragons, legendary 108 Dragons. Welcome, good sir, appreciate you being here.
Duo gang.
Yes, right. So like the thing that I saw Harrison when he was first announcing Stadia, they did a tech demo which was all just PR in hindsight, but they literally were able to just like show you this is a stream of water. Now here, look at us rendering that same stream of water, but with the resources of like 40 versions of what would be considered at that time a 2080 card, right? And that really showed you, all this intricate detail. They ultimately never were able to do it again. They were never able to do it again, but. Welcome Slow-Mo Backslap in the building. What's going on?
Yeah, let's shut the show down early. That's it. Let's go. Stop. But I think
for what it's worth, real quick, when it was first released, Cyberpunk played best on Stadia. That's something. Whatever that something is, it is something.
Shout out to everybody catching up with Cyberpunk now. It was good. It had problems on the consoles, but
but it's great.
Play that on PC. The one game.
But
anyway, no. So this, I think, this kind of highlights the fact that they basically shit on every developer connection that they had in terms of the gaming industry, because like who would work with them again? And I'm not talking about publishers that want to have a platform to release on. But like, what developer is going to go back to Google if they ever try to launch a new platform? That's it. They're done. This can never be a consumer play again.
Shout out to Solo Backslap saying, shout out to the 25 people who think Google never got a fair shake. They probably aren't watching this podcast.
They all have Jim Ryan avatars in their PFPs.
Absolutely. But you know what? While we're still in the topic of business, right? Let us move along and touch on a bit of this Saudi Arabia stuff. Right? And there's two stories that are back and forth within the Saudi Arabia fame. First and foremost, you hear Axios televising that, hey, Saudi Arabia says they will invest $37 billion in gaming. Now that used to shake the trees loose, but now we're like, get out of here, man. You ain't got $70 billion. We ain't even talking
billion in gaming.
Well, no, hold on. It's two stories. This one is $37 billion in gaming specifically, right? The next story, same day, was they're going to spend $13 billion on a specific publisher, meaning they've got a deal. They just don't want to tell you who it is.
Embracer.
So 37 in total.
It's Embracer. I just told you. It's Embracer. That's who they're going to buy.
They're spending $13 billion on Embracer? Damn.
Yes.
Let's have a conversation about that. Let us.
Think about the existing market caps, right? So we've got Sega that's about $3 billion right now. We've got Ubisoft.
Fuzzy Belvedere agrees with you. Are we talking? So they bought him. Really?
Jez Corton also agrees with me, but we can keep going. Okay. But just think about the market caps right now of these companies. We've got Square at about $5.5 billion. We've got Capcom at nearly $6 billion. You're not going to give a more than 100% markup on any of these companies. So if it's a specific publisher, then we have Ubisoft, which is just under $4 billion. Like I said, Sega at $3 billion. Take-Two and EA are too high to be acquired for $13 billion.
Shout out to John Wolf. He's sitting there shedding a tear for Crystal Dynamic.
I know. So I think the only one realistically is gonna be Embracer. Think who else? You know
what? I don't disagree with you from a logical perspective. I don't disagree with you, but Embracer, specifically the person who the owner, the leader of Embracer, seemed too much like a figure who doesn't want to sell. He seems like he wants to be the next. Like their ambitions, they want to be the next seat at the table. They don't want to sell. I don't think so.
If I was trying to sell for very high, I would sound like that too. You can't listen to.
No. That's true. That is true. You are
bearing in mind the different current valuations of these companies. Who do you think is going to get that is going to be worth $13 billion? Don't
get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I do see where you're coming with that. Like Capcom is right in that specific price demographic. You're absolutely right that, of course, so is Embracer is in that demographic. But there are a lot in that specific frame where that amount of money, 13, will move the needle, right? There are a lot. Even Sega, $13 billion moves the needle. Like you have Sega at that point. Am I wrong?
Yeah, but so you can't justify to whoever your shareholders are or whatever that you're going to pay quadruple the price for a thing. Like that's just not going to.
Okay.
It's not going to work.
So because of the price point that they've mentioned, you are convinced that most likely it is Embracer.
Yes, and Tencent, because I'm sure you have that story. Do you have that story? Is that one of your things?
Which one? Tencent. Tencent and Ubi?
No. Well, I mean, Tencent. There's a Reuters report that Tencent is going to move because they're getting blocked by regulators in China because they're cracking down on gaming over there. They want to have 50% of their revenue coming from outside sources, and they're going to invest into acquiring publishers outside of China, specifically targeting Europe. All that, and their in recent Ubisoft moves, I think Tencent moves on.
There we go. Yeah. Tencent shifts focus to majority deals overseas. Interesting. Basically a Sony move, right? Sony televised that when they changed their button from the what was it, the O button to the X, or vice versa, like changing
the regulators over in China have been cracking down on them.
All right, and shout out to panel member Hargeet Chani for dropping some Xbox Game Pass Ultimate codes. I'm putting that in the stream here. If you happen to catch that, how about you let us know you caught it so we can give you the proper appreciation. And thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Yeah,
thank you so
so
much. This is
dropped
awesome.
a Death Stranding code a little bit earlier.
There you go. And a Death Stranding code. Very cool. Thank you, sir. Thank you. So Mr. Everborn, do you think with moves like this, right, growing to the east, to the west, they're trying to shed some of the Chinese stigma a little bit, they're poaching Sean Layden. Do we see a either subscription service and or console in 2023, 2024?
I think Tencent wants to make a console. I think they want to enter the business.
And you think it's like handheld, like Switch type situation, like because
I don't know. I think they want to
dab a toe with the Logitech G Cloud thing there. They worked on software there, right?
Yeah, I think they want to change it from the big 3 to the big 4.
Yeah.
And I think they invest to do that, and I think they're one of the people that are complaining to regulators around the world about it being difficult to enter
the market. Interesting.
They're basically
even though they themselves would not be taken seriously because regulators know about them. People
no, I get that, but
the context matters there too. But continue.
That's besides the point. This doesn't mean you don't shoot your shot, man. Right?
Sure, of course.
So I say that to say they've effectively, if you kind of read the lines between the lines, they've kind of positioned Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo as sort of a cartel, and hoping regulators will help them out entering the market and using this deal. Whether that stops the deal or not, you kind of use it to get your idea on the docket, and then maybe they'll be amenable to you if you do try to enter the market. We'll see. But the Saudi Arabia thing, I struggle to think of anyone besides Embracer, and
I'd be surprised. Although your points are very sound, for sure. You do make very good points, but reading what I've read about that guy who it's basically a family company. He owns it. It's his baby. Reading what I've read about that, unless it's very, like you said, unless it's a very big PR campaign to then exit stage left and go live on an island somewhere. Shout out to you, Notch, seller of Minecraft, right? Unless that's his plan, I'd be very surprised to hear that he sold out, because I think he wants to be the next, he wants to be another platform based on everything that he's been telegraphing, right? But you do make interesting points. It will be interesting to see where this ultimately goes. Do we know roughly when they will announce who they ultimately bought? Is there any kind of indication on that?
On what? I didn't catch that.
Like, because Embracer basically said, "Hey, we bought somebody. We paid $13 billion. We ain't telling you who we bought yet." Do we know when they tell us who they bought?
But did they actually say they bought it, or they want to spend that money? I don't know if they've done it yet.
Yeah, I think they, like, let's see here. They will invest a further $37 billion in the market, and then they said they will spend $13 billion to acquire a leading game publisher.
Yeah, I think that's that. But so on that note, if we want to parse that headline, I guess you could interpret that to mean that that's what they have earmarked for it. So anything in that range, they can move on.
Shout out to the saucy one. What's going on, guys? Good to see you, good sir. Indeed. Okay. See, and I know I've been following the chat. Victor Alessine was saying how Saudi Arabia has already bought 96% of SNK. They are literally nipping at some heels, So it'll be very interesting to see, where their ultimate end game is. So far, they've, much like Tencent, they're kind of like, oh, well, we're just here. We see games as valuable. We're here. We want to invest, but we don't know ultimately where it will fall. And we won't know if they will be an enemy or ultimately they will be good to gaming.
Now we know why Saudi Arabia was the first to approve
the deal. Yes.
Microsoft.
They know where the bread is being buttered, sir. Yes, sir.
So listen, what if this is just you know what? Let me not go too far down the rabbit hole. This announcement,
you got another? You have another conspiracy?
I'm just saying this announcement comes at a very convenient,
very interesting time, right? Interesting time.
It's like all eyes are on submitting the European papers. what do you call it? Stadia, a rival being foreclosed, even though it was their own
You know
fault.
what? Let's talk about that because Gaz is here. What's going on,
and
Gaz?
Saudi Arabia comes and says, "Hey, we're buying stuff too."
Let me quickly point to, and we'll have a conversation about this because this is also very much related. And Gaz kind of sparked that match a few days ago, which he really didn't do that. I was watching the show for Asa, and shout out to Asa. You know, one half of the collective that is the Game On Daily. He has a nice show where he talks to the community, and they were just chatting about potential, what this would mean. It was the day that this whole the whole Xbox, I'm sorry, Google Stadia had been sold, right? And he pointed out, and of course later on Gaz clipped that and posted it, and it turned into a thing. He pointed out that, hey, with this close shutdown, as you're just pointing out here, Everborn Saga, a case can be made, or Sony or Google specifically can come out and really go to the regulators and say, even us, as big and as powerful as you think we are, we couldn't compete because of the undue influence or the power that Microsoft has in this environment.
Let me stop
just to kind of dirty them up.
Let me stop you right there. See, I actually, I think that argument almost helps Microsoft.
Oh, bro, I know it does, but we're priming the pump, brother. We're priming the pump. See, I think people got so angry at Gaz and so angry at Asa for pointing out something so logical and so it was eloquently put. The man facts, absolute facts. At a shallow level, at a cursory glance, you can say, just like you did, Everborn, look, there's a rival foreclosed. Right? Works in Sony's favor. But you dig deep, and the lawyers can rip this thing to shreds. There's so much context that's just visibly available for anybody to look. I always thought it was so hilarious. So I actually thought it was funny that people got on Gaz and Ace's case so much about it, thinking that they I guess they thought that they were bringing up a good point, we should be worried. This will most likely derail the deal somehow. Does anybody think that that's even a realm possibility?
Understand that people are hanging on for dear life for anything that seems like it could stall or block the deal, because they haven't come to accept that Microsoft could be the owner of Call of Duty. The thing that most of them pretend that they don't play anymore, they don't care about, because they've been so invested in arguing that Xbox has no games and is in last place. Even if they will continue to see COD on their platform, they don't like the idea of Sony not being the number one player in the market of the war they think they're fighting. And so hope above all reason, they're anything they can get, they can grab onto. Oh, this is definitely gonna block the deal. This is a problem. None of these people care about consolidation. None of these people care about foreclosed rivals. None of these people care about any of that competition being substantially lessened. They care that their favorite toy, they can brag about being number one.
Yep.
Because if they don't have that, then what do they have?
Yep.
It's not like they have families and kids
Gaz
and jobs and things to go to. Fair enough.
He said they never said, Gaz says he never said that Google's argument was valid. He just brought attention to it. It was something that Google could respond to and weaponize. Absolutely.
No, but this
people couldn't even read it. Yes, they were absolutely hostile for no reason. I'm like, why are you people just losing your minds? This is a very good point that's being made, but they ripped them to shreds. I was just, what's going on, people? They refused to. It was one of those la 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 la, stick your hands in your ear moments. Hopefully, if we yell loud enough, it'll go away. Because as valid as that point is, maybe the two sometimes $3 trillion companies' lawyers won't be smart enough to know how to handle that. Come on, people. It was very funny. It was very funny. You can
make any argument you want in court. Yeah. It doesn't mean that the people judging those arguments aren't going to recognize them for what they are, right?
Yeah.
So, I whatever's going to happen with the deal is going to happen with the deal, because we live in crazy times, right? And you just have to look at that within case, which I don't think that the FTC is going to win against Facebook. But we are where we are. So like I said, there's going to be a lot more fireworks where it comes from. And I do think that the Google thing comes up in these discussions.
100%.
I think it is more material than all the crying that Jim Ryan has been doing. And I say that to say, if you notice, because I don't know if you have this on the docket, but Microsoft has just sent the papers in. Okay, why not?
I'll just leave that one there for a minute.
No. But it seems like each of the major regulatory bodies are taking a different angle on how to attack this, right? So the US seems to be focused on the workers, right? At least that's all what's come out in the news, right? The UK seems to be focused on the console market. And the EU, if you look at the category under which it is filed, it's very it seems heavily focused on cloud, right? And I think the announcement from Google, and again, that date is not a coincidence, right? The idea that the same day that they file with the European Commission, or what is that? I don't know what you call it, but we'll call it the European Commission. The same day they file with them is when Google makes that announcement, or the day before, and has that January 18th date. I don't think that's nothing. And I think the EU's primary focus is going to be on cloud providers. And this is interesting because on the one hand, this is, even though it's their own fault, even though they shot themselves in the foot, stabbed themselves in the back, and jumped off a bridge before Microsoft bought Activision or announced they were buying Activision, and even though they were never going to get Call of Duty on that service anyway, that's immaterial. It's a foreclosed rival, and it will be brought up. So when we talk about,
but hold on. One thing, when you brought that up just now, rightly so, just like Asa brought it up when he brought it up, rightly so. The thing that both of you did not do right after that, which is what brought you the righteous smoke. I wouldn't consider the smoking righteous.
You didn't let me finish, so you don't know.
I didn't let you finish. Oh, so you're about to counteract the narrative. Please continue. Go ahead.
So, and we don't know, like Luna is a thing, but it seems pretty anemic as it stands. So I get it.
I think on Amazon's front, that's on their point. They are purposely kind of leaving it at the starting gate. Why? We're not sure yet. They're purposely doing that.
And I think things heat up once this deal goes through. So I'm saying all that to say, Google closing Stadia, again, I went through this in detail earlier. I don't think they were ever serious about a customer play, and it's supposed to be a B2B play. However, the money that Google will claim if they complain, because they didn't complain to Cade, that's the Brazilian stuff, because we can read their comments there, and they didn't think them buying Activision would lead to a lessening of competition. But anyway, what's it called? Google had to spend a shit ton of money just to get these.
You got two of them. One more and you're done.
Okay,
we get three.
I got to put money in the swear jar.
That's right.
So they spend a poop ton of money to get content in the service, and they had to pay more for several reasons. One, they made the idiot decision not to have this thing based on Windows because they didn't want to pay Windows.
They hate Windows, so everything's Linux based. You have to port it, which that was their kiss of death.
That was a non-starter, and if you have to port it, people just aren't going to
do that. Nope.
Right.
But on the flip side, that's the reason why Cyberpunk ran so well, because their port was better than the OG version.
And they didn't have something like Stadia had with Proton.
Yes, exactly.
Not Stadia,
With
Steam Deck.
Steam Valve, they
Right?
did not use Proton to thread that needle. Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
again, that's before we get to the fact that they didn't want to do a launcher. So
Yep.
all these things will be brought up. All those things are their fault.
I mean,
but what I want to focus on,
if you really think about it, though, their
point.
launcher, them not having a launcher would not have hurt them, since they really do have a good presence. Google does in the in environment, but they didn't have. To your point, they weren't strong enough. They didn't care.
The launcher means you can play the games locally on your PC.
Oh, you mean a way to download and install it locally?
Yes.
I understand.
Right.
Okay.
So that being said, the main point here is that if I'm Microsoft's lawyers, I say, hey, listen, look at all the money they had to spend just to get these games. What do you think we're facing against Sony? We have to spend all this extra money just to get content. They're locking us out of things, and that's the nature of the business. So we're doing that. Google did not want to do that, and that's why they are where they are. And if we don't do this, we're going to end up like Stadia.
Absolutely. And Hargeet, let me let you in on this. I want your opinions on it. One comparison, one analogy that I heard that I think it was shout out to the Mag. He gave me that analogy, and I thought that was so good. He said ultimately, Sony will rue the day that they thought to head down this path, because now they're shaking the tree loose, and what will fall down will be the rotten tree, the rotten fruit. And what is that rotten fruit? All those hidden things that Sony has been doing, that is just part and parcel of the gaming environment. That and obviously you see where I'm threading here, right? All the things they've been doing, including content parity and performance parity in the environment, will all be aired as dirty laundry coming very soon. And that's what they should be worried about, right? What do you think of all of this, where this is heading now?
Now, look, I already mentioned the piece where Sony's attempt to sort of thwart Game Pass also caused harm to Stadia. And I know people want to just look at the big money purchases that Microsoft can make. Absolutely, that's one part of it. No denying it. However, not being able to even get content, that's kind of another part of it, isn't it? Google was willing to spend 10, 15, 20 million dollars to have those developers port games. But if they're contractually obligated to Sony, where I can't put it on somebody else's subscription service, well, that pretty much takes it away, doesn't it? So they can't even go after those. So there's a lot of third-party games where that just was gone because Sony had contracts with those companies, right? That is a problem. And all that stuff's going to come out, right? So, and Microsoft has the receipts because they bought Bethesda, and Bethesda has 2 games under contract, right? And both of those contracts now are owned by Microsoft, and they can bring them to the regulators. Here you go. This is what they've been doing, right? We've tried, and this is what they've been doing. We played the game nicely. They didn't want to play the game nicely. Fine. So then we brought our checkbook, because that's what we've got. That's our superpower. So we got a checkbook. And we can just say, okay, well, Sony wants to keep doing this. We'll just buy the damn publisher. They can't do it anymore. We'll be nice and keep giving them games. They won't be nice and give us any games, but we'll be nice and give them games. But they're not going to do that for us. So fine, we'll bring our checkbook, right? Google has every opportunity to do the same thing. Bloody Saudi Arabia is doing it. Like, Google could have done it. There's just no reason they can't. Apple's ready to go. They've got hundreds of billions in the bank. They're going to be doing this at some point, right? So you should be expecting that. Amazon's going to do the same at some point, right? They're kind of building it up. And it's a good strategy, right? Build it up to the point where you have something people want and say, cool, this is exclusive in our setup. Bring it over.
And
right?
And I don't know if anybody has tried it yet. Amazon's offering. Do not sleep on Luna. It is quietly a giant just standing there watching y'all. I kid you not. Y'all know me. If you watch this show enough, I'm a technologist. I try everything. Luna is great. You just don't know it. It is great. The problem that they solved is the problem that dog Stadia. They were like, oh, they're only going Linux. They went, nope. Amazon's like, fine, we'll go in Windows.
Yeah.
If you check, like, at any moment now, if you check Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, right? You check Game Pass Ultimate, the offerings there, and you check Luna's offerings, boy, it is like for like, baby. Sometimes even the same games.
Yeah.
It's out there. It's just they're not on billboards. They're not literally plastering it everywhere. We're not sure. Amazon is just kind of pumping its brakes, getting ready for the wait. I suspect it's waiting for its first parties to get their ducks in a row before they really start pouncing.
Yep.
What do you think of that?
But that exactly is your point, right? So because Amazon can get those same bloody games, right? They're in one service, but they're in a competing service. Microsoft isn't putting in that closet. You can't go somewhere else. Like, go ahead. That's fine.
Yep.
We just want to put it
you
on
can
our
do your
service.
thing. That's right.
Right.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely. Yep.
they're open to other to competition. It's Sony that says, no, you can't do that.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So Deathloop couldn't even, it's a first party game. Deathloop couldn't come into Game Pass until it was put into PlayStation Plus Premium.
True.
Right.
True.
That was required by them. Right.
Yep.
That's in the contract. That's what they do. Right. So the player that's doing this the most, it's been Sony. And Sony currently has a stranglehold. Right. If you look at the US fair, it's 50-50. But if you look at the rest of the world, if I go to Asia, I want to play Elden Ring. Where am I playing that? I'm playing it on PlayStation. There's just no other option. Right. You have PC. Totally different platform. They have PC, but otherwise I'm playing it on PlayStation. Right. You go to Africa, it's the same thing. The entire continent.
Yeah.
It's just
but that's to Sony's credit, right? They have been speaking to those folks when Microsoft has always just kind of been content with just making sure America is
right. And that's why they're trying to change that too, right? Microsoft's trying to say, okay, we need to attract customers in those areas.
Absolutely.
We need to go change ourselves to do that. But yeah, that's where they are. And the other part of it that's disappointing, Nintendo could have been competing the whole time. They chose to kind of play in a different arena. I hope that changes.
The Nintendo just keeps printing their money while selling you the abacus known as the Nintendo Switch.
Yep.
And they're sitting there Scrooge McDucking like this. Hold on. Shout out real quick. I have to pause the show real quick because this is the first time this has happened, and I must pause the show and take a screenshot for posterity. 101 people watching right now.
Nice.
Thank you so much for watching. This is the first time we've scratched that 101. Last week it got to 100 and then it went back down. We're at 101 now. That is a cool little milestone for me. I'm very happy. I'm very excited to have everybody here. Please hit that like button if you haven't done so. Consider subscribing if you have not done so. Thank you so much for checking us out. No, Hargeet, you are very much on point with your takes on this. You know, there will come a time where no one will have a choice but to pay attention. But while that time has not happened, it looks like both companies are doing everything they can to keep the status quo. Whereas Microsoft is like, well, we're not winning, so we're moving y'all, kicking and screaming into the future. Whereas Sony's like, well, we are winning, so the future is now.
Yeah.
What we're doing is now. Shut your mouth, and be happy with what we give you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I've been saying this too. Sony should be doing what they're doing.
Yes,
I don't think they should be airing it publicly, but behind the scenes, what Jim Ryan is doing, 100%.
You know what?
You know what?
I'll even push back on you about the public showing. And I've said this to Everborn constantly. What does Sony do? Sony teaches you what to expect from them. They've been doing it forever, right? Whenever Sony does something shady or something ill, do people clutch their pearls and go, oh my God? No, they just go, that's par for the course. That's Sony. It's what they do. They are preparing you for the eventual shadiness that will come from them. And eventually when you do see it, you know what to expect because that's what they do, right? Just like Microsoft being all mea culpa all the time. Whenever they pull any kind of aggressive move, people hold it against them because they teach you that they're mea culpa all the time. Look what happened to Tomb Raider, right? That crystallizes the point exactly. You know, Sony money hats constantly. It's part and parcel of business. Microsoft tries it once. We're still litigating that today. That's what they do.
Sad.
So because of that, I don't think they even cared that they look weak in public or they're like, yo, we doing what we do, right? We're getting like what we can for our consumers. And if they win, they don't care if they looked weak. It still got them what they needed to get, right?
Yeah.
So I, for one, have always been on the side of, I'm surprised why people are so angry that Jim Ryan's out there saying what he's saying. If he wasn't saying what he was saying, that'd be surprising, right? Even if it's true or not, he should be saying exactly what he's saying, right? Because that's his business. That's his job, right? Absolutely. So I do appreciate that we're having the conversation about what Sony does and what Microsoft does. We'll pivot more into the parity clause conversation because you and I we've had that conversation before. We had it on Boom Show, and I want to kind of talk about it a little bit more here. We won't relitigate it fully, but you know, there's some more different nuggets here and there that would be interesting in adding. But I appreciate folks being here. I see let me make sure I have this right. Avi FTW says that Luna's problem. I'm sorry.
One second. Sorry, I stepped away for a second. I wanted
please.
to add before we move on from this.
Oh, we're not moving yet. Go ahead.
Deal stuff, but I made a tweet last night, and I said, whatever happens with this deal, the timeline is going to be so good, right? Just with all the salt and tears from either side.
Indeed.
But one thing, I want to be on record saying this, right?
Okay. Get ready to clip it.
If the deal goes through, there will be tears and salt and false accusations and all of this, and people pretending they never cared about COD.
They've already started. I've seen people returning pre-orders and stuff,
but still playing in the beta. But
still playing the beta.
But they'll eventually get used to the idea of Microsoft owning.
Oh yeah,
Activision.
They'll move on to another fight,
right? And they'll pretend everything Activision does is bad. That's a thing that's going to happen, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But if the deal gets blocked, my Xbox brothers in Christ will never let it go.
Of course not. They will be bitter forever.
Ryan can block this deal.
He will be.
My God, you will hear about this until you are on your deathbed.
Remember what is the CEO, the gaming CEO narrative we hear all the time? A good game is good all the time. A bad game is no. A good game is good once. A bad game is bad forever, or something like that. Shigeru Miyamoto's quote. If Jim Ryan is successfully able to block this deal, that idea, that narrative will shine brighter than Shigeru Miyamoto's quote.
But I'm telling you, the poop show that will ensue is going to be monumental.
It will be monumental, and there'll be a lot of receipts to be clipping on Twitter, I'm sure. So before we move on and we get the final, we get
people still talk about Sony killing Sega. Imagine if they block this deal.
Yeah. So real quick, Avi FTW wanted to chime in and say Luna's problem is availability, and currently it is not available outside the US. To that, I would say you are absolutely correct. And I think they're doing that on purpose, because even in America, those who know, those who don't know are not marketed to. Like in America right now, if you have a subscription to Amazon Prime, which most people do, you can go to gaming.amazon.com, which used to be Twitch, right? And the Twitch drops. And at the bottom, they let you play a rotating collection of Luna games. So any Google subscriber, any Amazon Prime subscriber rather, can go and test out Luna for free right now. But I bet you most of the folks that are on this that are listening to this didn't know that. Because Google doesn't, because Amazon doesn't promote it, right?
Yeah. Don't they give you like a monthly game too or something like that?
They give you a bunch of free games. They've always done that, right? So between Prime, between the Prime service and the Epic Game Store, I have about 400 games. Like they at least give you 1 or 2 AAA games every month, right? And then they let you try Luna. And the game they give you free, that's local download. You can just have that. That's just yours. Yeah. And then they let you try the Luna service. I think last month was like Street Fighter 5. This month they have a few other offerings. Anyone that's curious about Luna can go try that right now if you're a Prime subscriber, which most of you most likely are. So it's just one of those things where I think they are strategically just kind of staying at the starting gate, waiting till they have something like an offering, like a level of offering that's just too much to ignore, and then they'll just hit you over the head with it, because they could really compete right now today. They could compete with Game Pass today. As a person who's used them and Game Pass, I like Game Pass. Game Pass is great. It's available everywhere. If Amazon were to go, okay, we're doing it like Game Pass is doing it, it would be super interesting, because they are, as far as their gaming offerings, at least their third-party offerings, they can go shot for shot with Microsoft right now, today. It's there in the service. They're just not telling anybody about it, which is kind of strange. So we'll see. We'll see where this goes. I find it pretty interesting.
We're in that service.
Yeah, that's the only thing you won't find. You won't find any Halo, Gears, and or Forza. That is indeed true. That is indeed true. But okay, so Victor Allenstein posted something in the chat that I thought was very interesting. Now, around here, as we have been going, we've been broadening the show out.
What is this play scale thing?
Play scale?
Yeah, Dragons is saying talk about the Luna play scale. That's the main reason they won't gain ground.
I'm not sure. Maybe explain what you mean by that. Like from how I understand the Luna service working, right? Luna, and we've already kind of talked about it. In addition to the front end, where they insisted that developers port their games to the Linux variant in order for it to work, they also then, of course, were busy trying to sell it as a what do you call it, back end service. And to my understanding, both Capcom and Konami right now have agreed to use said backend service. And, as you were saying, Everborn, it really looked like they were really more keen towards the backend service than the front end. You know what I'm saying? They were really much more about selling their service, their technology to other services. One quick thing that was very interesting that I actually learned when I was listening to Asa talk about it, which was very interesting because I always knew the tea leaves were there, but I did not know they connected as well as they did. Do you know that the reason why Luna's that Stadia kind of inched out the competition as far as the tech was because of Bethesda? One of the first companies that leveraged Orion tech was Google on their own service. So it's very interesting, like, because I do hear people always talking about, oh well, now maybe Microsoft can buy the Luna technology, the Google technology to help.
Like they already have it.
To have Game Pass. Yeah, they've had it from jump, right? They owned that technology. They actually helped Google, of all companies, help their latency a bit using the Orion tech as well. So
hey, what is
very interesting.
So Slow-Mo in the chat is saying at least they had like a first party game.
Yeah.
What was that game? Did they have like a AAA game?
New World? No. Was that New World? No. That's Amazon. We're talking Google. They had
no. I'm talking Amazon.
Yeah, New World.
Amazon.
New World. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they had New World, which
was actually
breaking
good?
GPUs when it was first coming out. It's good now. Yeah, it was breaking GPUs when it first coming out. There was some driver issues. There was a few things here and there, but yeah, though it was huge when it first started, and now it just has a player base that people that like it.
So Luna is based on Windows.
Yes.
So already smarter.
Exactly.
Exactly. They're doing it the right way.
And they have a hardware component, meaning you can download the games.
That's right.
Right.
Yep.
That's how you're supposed to do it.
But you see what I mean, though? This is why we're like, hey, Luna is out here. They're just being strategic. They have everything to win right now. The wind is at their back. They have it ready to go. They're just choosing not to stand toe to toe.
You want to know what I think? I think the Activision deal is a signal for everybody. And so, and I think regulators are looking at this. If Activision is allowed to go through, there is nothing. You can't tell Amazon they can't buy EA or Take-Two, right? And they may just being quiet now, letting Microsoft sort of take the arrows, do all that. But I think that more so than the Bethesda acquisition or ZeniMax acquisition, I think ABK is gonna like set off like a firestorm of consolidation. It is what it is. It doesn't bother me, but long as when it's all said and done, Sega goes home. Doesn't matter who else goes where.
You know what? Speaking of Sega. Okay.
Here we go.
So Victor Alstein posted something in this chat a little while ago that I favorited because I like that. On this show, we're adding more to our repertoire, right? We're gonna talk movies a little bit, maybe we're gonna talk a little bit of tech, just a little bit, just some smattering of different topics in here and there. And Victor Alstein brought up a good point that I thought maybe it also deserves possibly some animation or something. We should have a conspiracy corner. That is absolutely awesome. I'm thinking about that. I might actually
need a graphic for it. We should get an animation made.
Yes, we might have a conspiracy corner because while we're having this conversation, I want to pivot real quick because we have some others we want to talk about. And before we hit our 2-hour limit, that I want to at least touch on those as well. Right. Hargeet was gracious enough to make it on shout out to Mr. Boomstick who's not here right now, but I'm sure he'll jump in at some point. He made it to Mr. Boomstick show, and we were talking about potential the whole idea of these parity clauses, right? As has been a big point of contention in the news. There are parity clauses.
Everybody's gonna hate me.
Oh well, we're gonna talk about it. Parity clauses around, and Microsoft has something, Sony has something, right? And as with all things, Microsoft's one is very agreeable language, PR approved language in that contract, right? So basically, what is it? It's for the purposes of making sure that they get the same features that others potentially have. If you don't have it, we will work with you, and this is Microsoft language. We will work with you in order to close the gap in getting the feature parity on our system as well, right? Flip side, Sony, if you want to be on our platform, we have to have parity with these others, right? They are not as agreeable language, but by and large, and everything I'm saying is based off of, I've listened to Hogue Law speak about it. I've listened to a few other folks speak about it. After you parse the language, and it can be parsed in multiple ways, right? The effect of it is relatively the same. They don't want they don't want game to come to PlayStation that has these features but goes to Xbox and it's losing that feature, even though the Xbox is capable of it, and vice versa, right? That's what that whole idea behind it is. Now, if you want to, you can read these articles. A lot of these articles say basically the same thing. It's, even though the words are parsed differently, its fundamental meaning for being is to make sure that if it can be available on this hardware, we want you to make it available on this hardware and not be in the business of, oh, well, this person paid me more, so I'm going to take away a feature from you, that the consumer won't know you paid me more, and that whole thing, right? So we've had some back and forth about it. What do you call it? Deathloop being a prime example, right? Deathloop was one of the prime examples. Released on PlayStation first, right? It was presumably in development before any of this back and forth about PlayStation versus Xbox versus who's buying who even happened, right? They made their decisions for making the game. They started it as a multiplat. So presumably it was multiplat until Microsoft came in and bought them. The deal was still struck, right? The deal was still in place. So, in hindsight, that most likely they finished both games, put the Xbox One on the shelf, marketed and released the PlayStation version, right? So, all has come, and now here we are. The Xbox version is out. And when you see the Xbox version, right, it has FSR 1.0. And for those who don't know, Fidelity Super Resolution 1.0, right, which is supposed to really claw back resources and give you a bunch of frame rate, which it does by and large. But if you compare it to DLSS, which is the NVIDIA solution, which the FSR solution is software only, so anybody can use it, whether you're NVIDIA, AMD, whoever you are, you can integrate and implement this into your game if given time. Whereas on the NVIDIA side, DLSS uses actual technology on the graphics cards. So it offloads some of these uplifts to the graphics card so that the rest of your frame rate can just keep it moving without using resources for upscaling, right? But long story short, Deathloop is now out, and it's identical on both Xbox and PlayStation, right? And a lot has ensued because of that, right? There's a lot of back and forth on Twitter because of that. Hargeet, I know you have a take on it. We've already discussed it. Tell the fine people what your perception of this is.
Yeah, so look, the parity clause thing happened because of the Xbox One X, right? So before that, it really wasn't a big deal. So PS3, 360 gen, 360 usually won, right? So it had higher resolution, and and that was mostly theoretically, there was more power on the PS3, right? But it happened because it was a hard platform to make games for, and so developers couldn't put in the resources to make it happen. They tried. In a lot of cases, they got pretty close, if not sometimes even beating the 360. But there was not really a big, issue, I guess, from Sony's perspective of, hey, you have to have equal on ours. Well, because they're the ones who made it a problem, right? Their cell processor was tough to make games for. So this thing really didn't exist then. Xbox One, PS4. PS4 was happily just trouncing the Xbox One. That was just it, right? Every game was coming out 900, 720, 1080p, right? 1080p on PlayStation, right? And they were happy. So there's nothing to worry about there. PS4 Pro comes out, and of course it's great. Xbox One X comes out, however, and starts showing, hey, we're actually significantly more powerful than you, and the resolutions are way better on our side. Right. And that was just happening game after game after game. And after that, you start seeing this parity clause come in. Okay. And then so when you see somewhere in the 2019 to 2020 timeframe, games start coming out. And here's the example that basically trounces anybody's baloney. Okay. Call of Duty, with its massive resources, has tried to make as much out of every hardware device they're on. Up to 2019, right? So 2018's game, resolution on Xbox One X was higher, lower on PS4 Pro. 2019, when the deal was renewed, the marketing deal was renewed. Since then, parity. They have not been able to have the Series X or Xbox One X have a higher resolution than the PS5 or the PS4 Pro. So that is just facts. Okay, that's what's been happening. So you're on mute, Asante.
Yeah, I'm totally on mute. So what your assertion is, because of that deal, they could do more, but they're stopped from doing more.
They're stopped. They must have the same resolution on both. That's just the way it is. Now, performance is different. They allow frame rates to go higher. They just won't allow the resolution to be higher. And that has been the case. And you can't tell me Call of Duty wouldn't spend the time. They do. They try to eke out every bit of performance out of every box.
No, that is absolutely true.
So, and they've got the resources to do it, right? So, and it's clear cut. That's what happened. It's clear cut as of that date. Same. So don't tell me it isn't parity because of Sony. It is 100% parity because of Sony. And there's zero reason Deathloop shouldn't be running at least 50, if not 100, resolution higher than.
Well, okay. On the Deathloop point.
PS5,
on
right?
the Deathloop point.
FSR. I don't care about FSR. That's great. That would be awesome if they did. They don't have
to.
Well,
but hold on. On the Deathloop point, specifically the Deathloop point, there is a wrinkle to your narrative. Just on the Deathloop point, though, and let's be clear here. I think this is a very interesting take. I have no reason to dispel this take because we don't have enough information to be fully, hey, this is what it is or it's not. It's a very interesting take, and as you've been speaking on that, right? I have been, and this is not the first time he said this. I've been, because I pay attention. We look at the digital foundries and all the various sources of comparison and this and that. So when you said that, I was like, that's interesting. Let me see if that pattern seems to exist. And by and large, that pattern does exist. You do see that pattern, right? Although the reason why it's difficult to be very, very poignant about it is there are very few games that meet that threshold. Very, very few. Obviously, Deathloop being one of them and a few others, right? The only thing about Deathloop where I'll push back on you just a tiny bit is Deathloop and FSR 2.0 specifically has an interesting wrinkle in it, right? And shout out again to Mr. Asa, who pointed something out, and I was like, that's interesting. And after I heard him say that, I tested it out on my own, and I was able to verify it. If you take and this is on PC, right? For those really high level, on PC, you profile it yourself. You can dial it in, dial it down as much as you want. You have the graphics card, you have your CPU, you have your RAM. You know how well or how badly it will run. You get to choose. Obviously, on console, it's profiled for you and it's locked down, right? If any equation ever changes, they'd have to then reprofile the game. On PC, Deathloop, if you play FSR 1.0, and you can easily switch between 1.0 and 2.0 by switching DLLs. So you can actually test like for like, right? If you play with FSR 1.0 and then you play FSR 2.0, resolution your FPS
or go down.
Your FPS goes down, not up.
Your FPS should
Why?
go up, but
your
resolution should go
That's
down.
the funny thing. FPS goes down.
Okay.
Why? And when he said that, I was like, that's really weird. You think 2.0 is even more optimized, so FPS would go up. It would be even more optimized. No, it's not, and that's very interesting because what they did with FSR 2.0 is they're trying to get closer to DLSS. When FSR 1.0 came out, everybody was like, "Yo, this thing is amazing," but it's not as good looking as DLSS. if you compare FSR 2.0 to FSR 2.0 quality to DLSS 2.0 quality, it is like for like.
I want to take this out of it though. That's been the problem.
I hear you. I hear you. No.
FSR 2.0.
Let me finish. Let me finish. I hear you. Let me finish. The reason why it makes the whole point of Deathloop a bit dubious is if you are to take the 1.0 implementation and upgrade it to 2.0, it would make the game run worse right from jump. You'd have to reprofile that game because of how FSR is implemented. So specifically on the FSR point for Deathloop alone, it would take more effort than people think it would to make it run as good as it needs to. It would then need to really be reprofiled and put back in, right? And that's the reason why it wouldn't be as quick as, they can just add 2.0 and they didn't. It would take time. You would actually have to reprofile. That's
superfluous, and it proves the point even more.
Okay,
because they're using FSR 1 on both.
Yes,
right, and there still is more graphical oomph available on the Series X. That's just the truth, right? And they're not giving us a higher resolution.
They're not reprofiling it. That's true. They're not reprofiling it yet. So okay. And to move this forward, do you think will your theory change if they reprofile it, say, in a week? A week from now?
No, because that's exactly what they said, right? At launch, it cannot have.
So what you're saying is, even if a day later,
it's usually 6 months to a year later, but there'll be a patch. Surreptitious, can't tell you.
Okay.
There'll be a patch.
Okay.
And it will suddenly work better.
So if this hits some kind of like nice clean threshold, as in 6 months to a year, then you're convinced that you're right. If it happens to happen like next week, all of a sudden it's parity.
It may not happen. It's up to the developer to say, I'm going to do it or not, right? So it may not happen. In Xbox's case, they have some potential, I guess, inclination to do it, but in the end of it, do they care enough, right? Because
that's my question.
They want Arcane to just move on, to put the game there. It's good,
and that's what I was saying on Boom Show. I wasn't saying that they were careless or whatnot, right? But it seems to me, and I've been learning this specifically this generation. It seems to me that while we are like, these guys they're gonna finish the ABK deal so that they can have the best Black Friday ever. Microsoft doesn't care if the ABK deal finishes in 2028, as long as it finishes.
Yeah,
they don't see your timelines. They don't have that sense of urgency you have. And by you, I mean us consumers. We want it immediately. They will give Call of Duty to Sony for 3 more years because they know ultimately they'll still get what they want.
Yeah.
Right. So because that's them and that's always tend to be them, I can see a world where they go, we could reprofile Deathloop, but y'all are already moving on, right? We already have the vampire game in the wings that's being dealt with.
Yeah.
This looks good enough. They didn't even add additional DLC. You'd think after this game has gone to almost the mountaintop with the opposing competitor, you would think that when you finally release it here on Xbox, you would have like a 2.0 or an extra DLC or something to crow about hey, it's on our system now. They just dropped it like it was hot and just kept it moving. So it kind of makes me feel like they don't really care as much about it.
Maybe, but I don't think that's it. I think it's the parity, right? So even at FSR 1.0, if I went from a 3070 to a 3090, do I expect to have a higher res? Well,
of course you do.
Of course. So then why didn't that happen here?
Well, no, of course. Look, there are many, many, many games that have high overhead that never get tapped into. Although I'm not disagreeing with you that it could be because of Sony here. I'm not saying they're above it. I'm not saying that at all, right? But there are a lot of games on the Xbox side where, by the very nature that they are not the market leader, and most of the time people will play that whatever that third-party game is elsewhere anyway, that a lot of devs have made the decision of, it's good enough. It's happened. And it's not to say that they're lazy or anything like that. They just don't have the resources to profile for them.
But it's not a profile thing. It's just if I put it on the 3090, it just has it. It's not like the developer.
Yeah, that's the difference. That's the difference, though.
No.
On console, that's not how it works. You can throw, let's say, even though you can't take out a graphics card because they're all system on chips, let's say you could take out a console's graphics card and upgrade that card. It would still run at 1080p exactly the way it did, unless the game was built dynamically. Most games on consoles are not. They are locked, right? But if a game is not locked and it can go as far as the system will give it, like a game like, what do you call it? Like we were talking about, AC Unity, right? AC Unity. If you buy that game without the patch being installed, right from the disc, that game runs unlocked frame rate, unlocked resolution, right? So that game becomes a very unique test bed for game systems moving forward. Right. That is a very rare game example. Most games stay at 30 frames per second. Look at what's the game? The greatest game the greatest 900p game ever, Rise, Son of Rome. And on PC, that thing reaches 4K 120. I've played it. But on console, even though the Series X can handle it, it's still at 900p, right? So the idea that, we have a bigger card now, so it'll just take it. No, someone has to actually go in and unlock and tweak it before it will use that hardware. But that's just because how consoles are built.
Zero incentive for Microsoft to not do that.
And there's zero incentive for third parties to do that as long as Microsoft is not the market leader.
That's a third party. This is a first party.
Sure. So again, on the point of Deathloop, it is a very interesting thing. I'm paying attention to it. I want to see when we get that parity. I want to see when Deathloop rises beyond the current resolution. Mr. Everborn Saga, you've been quiet while myself and Mr. Hargeet Chani has been chopping it up.
I know.
Are you there, good sir? What are your thoughts on all of this?
I just went back to sleep. This was worse than the VR
stop
talk.
It.
Look, man, this again, whether there's a contract in place to hold back competition or competing platforms, ultimately, and I'm not trying to minimize it, and this is just partly just the way I think about most things, it's Microsoft's fault, right? And they're solving it by buying Activision. And then everybody on the PlayStation side can cry about it later. Sony's doing what they can do, if that's even what the language says, which I'm not sure that that's what it does. But Sony's doing what they can do because they're the market leader. You don't like it.
Stop it. You know you're here because you're enjoying yourself. Stop it.
You don't like it. Become the market leader and make your own deals and do what you need to do that. Or more importantly, how about you with your first party exclusives show people how it's done? And until they do any of those things, I don't really want to hear what Sony's doing. And it's not saying it's shady, not saying it's underhanded, but listen,
business.
It's not show friends.
It's business.
Right? So,
and you know what,
Microsoft,
I'm unhappy right now because you have put me in a position to solely agree with Mr. Everborn Saga.
No, I agree with him
never
too.
happened on this show.
I agree with him too. You can call it out, but it doesn't mean that it isn't exactly what. Just like
100%.
With the ABK deal and the Crying Ryan stuff. Yeah, no, he should be doing that.
Yeah.
No.
And to be fair and to be clear here, I am not saying that you are wrong. I am saying that there is potential for other reasons, but yours is also a potential good reason. Specifically the fact that the first party hasn't done more than they could. My only caveat to that is Microsoft tends to make some interesting decisions sometimes that leaves you scratching your head, and this might be one of those. But hey, you don't know. So I do agree with you, Everborn. This is much ado. I wouldn't say it's much ado about nothing. There is definitely something here, but you want this to go away? It will when Series S is the reference design, and it's on its way. Right?
Going back to the Series S. I'm talking about the Series X, man.
I'll still
something out that is undeniable.
Don't you understand, catch up to you. They have to use the Series S as the reference design because that's their lowest denominator. You can't use the X.
Cool.
Right? You have to use the lowest common denominator, which would be the S.
Put some industry defining stuff out, and that will show people what can be done. before we, look at everybody else. Like,
Sure,
you got to take the mote out of your own eye, to quote something from a dogmatic book.
So, okay.
But yeah, blame Microsoft. That's it.
I agree with you. I 100% agree with you. And although there are conspiracy theories to be had, and some of them maybe more legit than others, who knows? But at the end of the day, I agree with you. At the end of the day, the market has skewed towards that direction because you allowed it to skew towards that direction. You didn't capitalize on the 360. So, and let's be clear here, during the 360 days, they were the reference design. It would be made for 360 and then ported.
Microsoft, I mean, we know it's going to benefit them in the long run, or at least we hope. They're the ones that decided to wait for RDNA 2, which means their tools were late. They're the ones that completely changed to the GDK from the XDK, and developers have to catch up with that.
But you see my point about their timelines, right? You see my point. Even though right at the beginning of a launch of a console, that's not when you change your GDK, because that's when you'll get the worst output ever, to the point where the Dragon engine becomes your showcase. Facepalm. But they did it because they don't have the same timelines we do. They don't care. They know that ultimately, even if it takes 2028, ultimately you will see the console shine, and they got money in the meantime. They ain't got to worry about that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like that seems to animate them more than it animates us.
Now,
what
we're
running around like chickens with our heads cut off while they're just like, we'll be all right.
You know what would be hilarious? If by the time the tools all came full circle and the industry understands the tool set and they're using it, that's when Sony has mid-gen refresh.
Yep.
And so all the tools will automatically have the better things. And that is just Microsoft's luck.
So, okay, we've had some really cool, and I love the Hargeet, you're here, so we can go all out, go deep
I'm not having the RDNA 2 discussion again.
Oh no, we're not going there. But you know what? Because we're here in the GCP, right? We're changing the Gaming Circle podcast into the Geek Culture podcast, slowly but surely. So let's do a bit of a tech drop, and this tech drop obviously is very much game related. So there you go.
I don't believe it. I think it's going to be 349.
Yeah.
Because
so first and foremost, well, hold on, Everborn. For my audio listeners, there is a rumor mill that has popped up on Twitter. There's a video, a picture showing one EU store. I'm not sure which one. Actually, it's what is it? Klarna is what it's called. I think it's a British. I think it's British. I'm German. I'm not sure. Please, if I'm wrong, chat correct me if you know the store. And they are listing the PSVR 2 for €599.74. Now, we have had and they're also listing the release date as Friday, March 10th.
And they take
160 days. We have been having this back and forth, myself and Mr. Everborn Saga, for a while now. Recently, when the price increase, and Hargeet, I would love for you to weigh in on this and give us your take. When the price increase happened with the PS5, right? Mr. Everborn Saga had, as we do it around here in Conspiracy Theory Town, Mr. Everborn Saga had the conspiracy theory that maybe this was a backwards connect type situation where everyone was subsidizing the cost of the PSVR 2, although not everyone will be getting a PSVR 2, right? Which, hey, you can think of it one way or another, but what he said that I thought was interesting was, since they charge everyone more now, then the PSVR 2 will come in at like a cool $350 or something, and everybody will go, "Oh, that's such a great price."
Right? They raise the prices as a mechanism to subsidize.
I get it. I get that.
The PSVR
2. And a very sound argument, very sound theory. I, on the other hand, was of the school of thought that this is SIE. This is the company that promised you to give you Forbidden West for $10 less, and then did everything in their power to try and stop you from being able to click the link that gets you the $10 less. Even if your theory is 100% correct, which it could be, right? I'm not saying it's not. Even if your theory is 100% correct, I do not see a world where they go, well, we could charge them $350, or we could charge them $4. man, let's make them think we're giving the consumer the benefit, and we're giving $350, leaving money on the table. Mr. Hargeet Chani, where do you fall? Obviously, we don't know that this is real or it's not real. This could all be hyperbole. A big fact, like if you really ask my personal opinion, and here we go, here's my conspiracy theory. I think they're threading the needle on this thing. This is fake, because right now they're hitting you over the head with the 600 euros. Oh my God. Then it ultimately turns out to be $499, and you go, oh, that's much better, which that itself is an egregious price.
You know, they did that up in the lead up to the PlayStation Plus, where they leaked that it was going to be $21 or $25 a month, and then came out to be 18 plus the yearly discount. And then people feel like, see, it's not as cheap as you guys as expensive as you guys were crying about. So yeah, I still think this is fake though.
So a quick aside,
those are pounds, right?
Yeah, it's pounds. Yeah.
So what does that translate to? Like,
well, the pound and euro is not, the pound and the dollar is not like 2 to 1 anymore. It's closer than ever.
Like
but before we continue the conversation,
it's fallen quite a bit, unfortunately. But
the pound has fallen quite a bit. Before we continue, let me correct real quick. I see Pixel Bit G saying, if you want to change your GDK at the beginning of the new gen is probably the perfect time to do so. So I'm incorrect. I hear you on that, good sir. My only rebuttal to that would be, if that's what you want to do, and that's fine, but then it's on you to create like a Surface type device that shows off what this thing can do. Because if you change your GDK and don't show anybody exactly what it can do, and you just rely on theoretical numbers, everyone can continue clowning your hardware like they do now. You've never showed them anything different. So that's where I'm going with it. But let's get back to this. What do you think, Hargeet? What is you saw this? What'd you think?
So look, in a world where, say, Phil were running PlayStation, I would agree with what Everborn. Yeah, I would agree with Everborn that they would do things
magnanimous
to make it
dude.
So that, yeah, exactly.
Pass the PR goodness onto the consumer. Yeah,
he wouldn't even increase the price, right? And he would find a way to still give it to you for $300, $350. In the case of Jim Ryan, I can't see a world in which that happens. Jim Ryan is a money man, and he's not going to do it. That does not shock me at all. $600. That's what I would expect. Now, understand that in the UK you have a value-added tax, something that we in the US we don't we don't have that, so it's baked into the price. So that essentially is $600. So that's what it would be over here. But realize over here they could say it's $499, but in the rest of the world it happens to have a little bit of a inflation tax, and so in UK it'll be 600 pounds. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. I would expect it to be around that 500 mark, maybe higher. And that's just the way it, like, so Jim Ryan is not playing this.
It will be dead on arrival if it is that price.
Are you sure about that?
It was 500.
Yes. They have a lot of diehard PR PR interns.
I hear
screaming.
It will be finished. They can forget about VR if that's going to be the casuals entry
I just
point.
don't see them not charging that much.
You can't even find a PlayStation 5, and then you're probably going to find less of these, and it's going to be at that cost. That is insane.
I'm telling you,
I don't believe
this will not be.
That's what I paid for PSVR 1.
There you go.
So I just can't see them not charging that much.
Now, did you buy the full bundle, or did you buy the in
I had
pieces?
to buy the bundle because I didn't have the Move controllers and all that stuff.
The pieces made it look cheaper, but when you bought it all together,
there aren't enough PlayStation zealots out there to
shout out to 108 Dragons.
Work.
Even it's even too much for him, and he's a VR guy. I'm a huge VR guy. Y'all know I actually have an index in my house, and that index, right? I bought that index because it at the time I felt like it was almost like what do you call it? A Tesla. You know, you have to buy the expensive one so the cheap one can eventually come out, right? So I did that at the time because I could do that. At this point, if this price stays, we're talking a bundle of $1,000, $1,200 just to get into VR if you are not a PS5 owner. That is a big uplift, like monstrous. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how. So Everborn, what price tag do you think this comes in on if it for it not to be DOA?
I think that it has to be max $399, but for me, $349 is where it needs to be.
So if it's $499, it's dead on arrival.
Dead.
If it's $399, it's dead on arrival.
No, they can sell it. They can sell it for $399, but like it's still
without controllers.
No,
because they've done that.
It has to come.
They will sell it $399 without controllers.
That's what they did exactly with PSVR 1. You can buy the base thing for $400
without controllers,
but then I don't have
and then also without controllers and without a camera.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
That's because you may have already had the Move and the camera.
No, I get that. I get the reason for that. But the point is,
play without that. So you have to have that.
The point though is they were able to use that to artificially decrease the price, just like they're able to use the digital PS5 to artificially say that they have a $399 Xbox PlayStation when they don't. Right?
Yeah,
they're artificially decreasing that price. That's why they separated it. But the bundle was expensive. And that's when they were handing you like low grade, low tech spec stuff. This right here, this is worthy. Take it from me. This is worthy. So I do not see a world where they give it to you for $350 because that would be stunning. I would come see me on the Gaming Circle podcast on my knees the whole show if they give this for $350. I'd be stunned.
God damn.
Well, take a knee. I'll take a knee. You know what I'm saying? I would be absolutely stunned if this thing comes in that cheap. I would be stunned.
I think it has to. I'm saying $349, not because I believe that that's what it will be.
I know it's outside in tracking, not inside out, so it does not. It's inside out, not outside in, so it does not need a camera. But I guess the point I'm trying to make to you is, if there's an accessory needed, it won't be bundled in. It will definitely be separate and charge you more for it because that's what they do.
And costs back when that came out, PSVR 1 versus 2. I mean, you just have to take that into account, right? There is still inflation, and they have to deal with that, right? So component shortages on top of that, it just is what it is.
Like I say, I don't know what the price will be, but I feel like the only way it could work is if it's $349 max $399.
Sure, I hear you on that.
For more than
that's the ideal scenario. That is indeed the ideal scenario. But I don't know, brother. I don't know. Look who we're dealing with, man. We're dealing with somebody who's not hungry. They're not hungry. They're just hungry for money, right? They're not hungry for giving you what you want so that you consider them the best. They know they're the best. They are the best, right? I really don't see a world where they go, well, we'll pass on the savings to you. They're in that you'll get another job.
It's not about passing on the savings, though. It's about finding the right go-to-market price. And I just think $499 is going to be a non-starter for most people. They're going to be enthusiasts that get it, but I think they want this thing to go further than enthusiasts.
Yep.
So like, I
don't agree with you, man. I do agree with you, but I think their ego and their prestige status will overshadow their intelligence in this matter.
They're not stupid. So
no, they're not. But remember, they are the ones that said we're making a console that's cost $599 and you need another job to afford one. They said that.
Listen, everybody said dumb stuff back then.
Which tells you that they said dumb stuff before. They're able to say dumb stuff again, just like
when
Microsoft.
People tell you about old stuff Microsoft used to say, you say, "Oh, that was a whole different."
No, I hear you. No. Let me not be that guy. I hear you on that 100%. But I guess what I'm trying to say to you is, they have based on exactly. Thank you, Fuzzy Belvedere. They are giving me PS3 vibes based on their actions. They're giving me PS3 vibes. And during that time frame, they were very, I don't think egotistical is the right word, but they were very confident of their position in the market to the point where they made dumb mistakes. And it looks like they're doing that again. So it appears. I hope I'm wrong because, like I said, I'm the biggest VR guy. I want this to move forward, right? I want this to move forward, but at the end of the day, we shall see. I hope I'm wrong. I will let Everborn give me your last take on this. You think the date is right?
The date could be right, but it's still, you wouldn't have this now, so I don't know. I think the date is wrong. It could be around that time, but no, I wouldn't count on this for the date or the price. I think both things are.
So you still think $350 and when?
I'm getting big Photoshop vibes from this. I think. Did they say early next year when they talked about it?
No, they've just spoken about the year. They haven't spoken about any kind of, to my understanding, and please, folks, correct me if I'm wrong. They haven't spoken about any kind of quarter, whether it be first or second or anything.
Because I feel like you launch something like this during the holidays.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, so that's a weird.
They already said it though, right? I thought they announced it's coming up early next year. Didn't they?
They did announce it's coming in 2023, but they haven't announced exactly when in 2023. Or am I wrong?
But did they say early next year? That's the question.
They did say early next year?
I'm pretty sure they did. Let's just look it up, right? I'm pretty
sure. Yeah. Because that would be a weird time.
Yeah, early 2023.
So early. Okay.
But which explains why this says March. This is
sure. Okay.
But I
doesn't automatically mean it's right though. But hey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's realistic.
It is realistic.
We can see it in
Hargeet,
March.
how about you? What is your final take on this thing? Do you buy one? Do you think the time, the price?
I don't even have a PS5 anymore. I'll counter.
Maybe you'll get that bundle.
I'll counter one thing you said with the cost. Right? Is yes, you have the Oculus, right? So you could get the Meta. What is it? Meta Quest 2, right?
Mama call them Oculus. I'm gonna call them Oculus.
Right. So, but if you were to do this with PC, right, you'd have to get a pretty substantial PC. True. That has its cost. And then on top of that, you have to buy a pretty good headset. And so the actual cost to enter to get a pretty damn good device isn't bad, even at like $400 or $500.
Yes.
It's not bad.
Yes.
And you
I agree with you on that.
Tech you're getting here, it's a lot of good tech. So
for that, and you're right. Let me be clear here. I don't want to cast aspersions. The tech you're getting is worth the $399, $499 price point if that's where they land. It is worth that, right? And every piece of technology that comes in the VR space tries to up the ante in VR in general. So when Quest comes out, it does something that no other headset can do, even the Index. When the new one comes out, it adds a feature that nothing else. Every single one does that. And all of the VR headset vendors work together. Make no mistake. They're trying to grow the base. Yep. So Index works, believe it or not, even with Oculus these days. They used to hate each other. They work together. They share tech these days. So does all the others, right? So that's where foveated renderings coming out for the PlayStation VR 2, and it's a big deal because it's never been in
that neural interface, man.
Yeah, well, when we're ready to plug the computer chip behind our neck, I will make sure you're the first to
I'll be in the Matrix, baby.
Absolutely. But you know what? Unfortunately, I have to call an audible, and we're gonna have to end this show a little early today. And now I say early today; it's only 2 hours and 13 minutes. We did have some movie news I wanted to touch on. I had a bit of things here and there, but life happens, and unfortunately, I'm gonna have to cut it short. But
how many people are watching right now?
We've had 2 hours, and we're right now at 115 people watching, good sir.
Wow. How many likes do we have? I need to know how many likes we have.
Please consider hitting that like button if you haven't done so.
We have over 100 likes.
Under normal circumstances, we'd still be going in there.
20 at some point.
The view to like ratio is where it should be. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. We appreciate
every one of you.
That's right. Absolutely. We would have so the folks know, future episodes, we'll be even doing some spoiler talk at the end of the show. If we're talking Rings of Power, She-Hulk, a few other things. We really want to carve out some good segments and put the stuff out. When we can, we will start breaking these into small little segments, have a tech drop segment, a few other segments. Victor Allenstein, maybe we'll have a conspiracy corner, something funny, something cool. Maybe an animated version of Everborn Saga putting on his cap. You know what I'm saying? It'd be real cool.
I like to do a slow-mo is wrong corner if we can as well.
Wow. We'll talk about it. But no, thank you guys so much for being here. We have to cut it short. 2 hours and 15 minutes. That's short for us. But I'm sure that the folks at Living Split Screen are going live and they're going strong right now. Please shout out to them. Go visit them. Let them know that we sent you. But before we're out of here, Mr. Hargeet Chani, we appreciate you so much for being here. We had some awesome tech conversation. We love talking tech, love talking about the industry, and clearly
I got a great nap during all of that VR talk.
Shut your mouth. Clearly, you're a kindred spirit, good sir. Tell the fine people where they can find you this week. I know you're on Game On Daily on a weekly basis, doing great things with those folks. Tell the people where they can keep up with your stuff.
Yeah. So check out our website. It's a news aggregation platform, gameondaily.com. Set up an account, try it out. And our YouTube channel, youtube.com/gameondaily. We have our weekly Go Live show. Hopefully you'll check it out today and have some fun.
And Mr. Everborn Saga, sir, out here in these streets, literally being the one-man Jon Snow against the Horde. What's going on, man? How you doing this week?
I thought you said against the horse, but I was like, wow, that wasn't nice. But
I said the Horde with a big D.
The Horde. But no, man. Look, we'll keep it quick, man. Everborn Saga everywhere. Listen, I need everyone to start going to everbornsaga.com. I need you guys to check out the books. If you have not checked out the books, I really want to grow this thing out. We got like 3 books in production right now. We're working on a game. Go and check it out. If you're into fantasy, if you're in the anime, if you're in the manga, if you're just in the dope stories, check it out. There's merch there and things too, but really go check out those books. everbornsaga.com. Everborn Saga everywhere else. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Xbox, PlayStation, Steam, all that. Check out everbornsaga.com and more news on the Redlands game that is coming soon that is based on that book that you see right there. So everbornsaga.com. I really got to start pushing that more. And yes.
So you know, my daughter read this book, has read this whole thing at least 4 times now.
Well,
she digs the book. So there you go. This is bedtime reading material in my house. So the Everborn Saga trilogy. It's bedtime reading material. My kids love it. So by the way, if you haven't checked it out, there it is. Please do so. Everborn, I suspect we'll be hearing more about potential development processes.
Yeah, the animation is just moving so slower
than you expected. Yeah.
So I gotta wait for that stuff to come in, but we're working on it. It's coming.
Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for being here, for our honored guest, Mr. Hargeet Chani, and for me and Mr. Everborn Saga. It's been great having a wonderful conversation, chopping it up with you guys. Panel, the chat, always great, always lit. We appreciate you guys for always checking us out on the Saturday morning. You know, we'll be here again next week, but until then, go listen to some podcasts. Go check out the Chatter Days from Miles Dompierre. Go check out Living Split Screen. A lot of great.
And if you're not subscribed, subscribe. Don't forget to tell them that. We got to hit that.
If you're not subscribed, please do. We're so close. We're heading down that walkway to that 1,000 subscribers. It's going to be amazing. We're doing it. We appreciate you for being here. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.